Election 2024 is over. America has voted, and both sexism and racism have won the day. On Liberal Dan Radio, we will hold everyone accountable, from the media that failed to report the threat that Trump poses to this nation, to the people who supported him. We will pick up the mantle to educate the people about his actions, from being dictator on day one, pardoning January 6th domestic terrorists, implementing Project 2025, and any other draconian measures he tries to pass. And now, the resistance begins. And welcome back to Liberal Dan Radio, talk from the left, that's right. This is your host, Dan Zimmerman, coming at you live from New Orleans, Louisiana. We will open up the phone lines in a bit. When we do, the phone number is 562-542-3261 or 562-LIBDAN1. But for right now, if you want to join in the conversation, just leave your comments in the chat rooms either at liberaldanradio.com or twitch.tv/liberaldanradio. Bunch of topics to talk about today. It was a long day, very long day, just dealing with stuff, lots of stuff, financial troubles, financial stresses, all that good stuff. I was pretty feeling, actually rather worthless today. If I must be honest about my feelings, I was feeling rather just like I can do no right. Like, some people think they can do no wrong. Well, today was a day of me not feeling like I could do anything right, especially when it comes to finance types issues. However, thankfully, I have a wonderful wife who always is there to cheer me up and, basically kind of talk me through it or whatever. Still not necessarily feeling the greatest about myself and decisions made, but, it happens, and
it is what it is. Thank
you, Donald. You know who makes really bad financial decisions, at least really bad for us, is Donald Trump and Elon Musk and all those, immature idiots who are running this country right now.
It is what it is.
There you go. First and foremost, let's give shout outs to all the people who are in the chat early. We got Aaron, one half of the mod squad. We got Mad Mac. We got Josh, Jeff from just north of Uranus, Tim, CR, Roxanne, the Soulcraft, Jackie, progressively independent, Steve from across the pond.
It's no Scottish, it's crap.
And I believe I have everybody who is in there so far who has said hello or some other words to let me know of their presence. I believe Janelle is too. Janelle Walker, good to see you, Janelle. Thank you for joining. Got a bunch of the J Squad in. We should have J Squad shirts too, right? Still patiently waiting on my T-shirt to be live on my sister's website. So once that happens, we'll be able to see the new Liberal Dan T-shirt. That being said, let's see, other personal stuff. I did go a little overboard at dinner last night, so I haven't eaten anything today because of the Zepbound and how it affects me. And of course, I've also had one of the side effects with Zepbound is if you overindulge too much, one of the things that might happen is you end up getting what's known as the sulfur burps, and that's not pleasant for anybody involved. There is a joke out there where people will say, better to burp and taste it than fart and waste it, right? I don't know if you've ever heard that before, but it's something that people say after they, I guess, let out a huge belch to be able to justify the fact that they just let out a huge belch. Although in some countries, I guess, belching is seen as a form of flattery for the chef who made the meal. That being said, if you ever had sulfur burps, you'd rather waste it. You don't want to taste it. It's just gross. Yes, Dean, they are very gross. Hey, Lisa, thank you for joining. Good to see you. I'm doing all right. Little rough mental health day for me, but, it happens.
It is what it is.
Thank you, Donald. I don't know if I'm hitting that a lot tonight, but we have a lot of stuff to talk about when it comes to Donald Trump, MAGA, and all of the ridiculous, childish, lawless sycophants that are part of the Donald Trump administration. Thank you, everybody, for smashing those hundreds and likes and all the other emojis that come. Again, helping the algorithm here is good. Helping the algorithm on the other videos are good as well. Definitely got to get those. Hopefully, we need to figure out a way just to get those video views up. Apparently, hey, Orvillaby over on Twitch, thank you for coming and joining us over there. One of the things that, if you notice on my video, where I talk about how I have no problem, quote, no problem, I fully endorse Donald Trump's plan to make Canada the 51st state. Of course, it's being said tongue-in-cheek. It will never happen. It won't happen, but it's clear that somebody just watched the title of the video and didn't go into watching the whole thing, because they called me a MAGA traitor. Like, I'm not the MAGA traitor. That's like Chuck Schumer and all the other spineless Democrats who refuse to stand up to the Republican Party. No, I am, posting this modest proposal, if you will, in a Swiftian way, simply because of the fact that by doing so, we would lock in a Democratic presidency from now to the end of time. There would be no way a Republican could win if we had Canada as the 51st state. Again, it'll never happen. The idea that, Canada would want to be part of this dystopian hellscape that is America underneath the Trump administration is just silly and absurd, A. B, even if they did, there's no way that all that land, all the people living in all those territories, all those provinces up there, there's no way that they would want to, be just one state. They would probably want to be multiple states, which actually would be even better for us and the Democrats and the left or whatever. But, some people just can't take a joke. Some people take things way too seriously. Hey, it's impeccable living. Good to see you.
Oh my.
I got almost everybody. I think there's one more that I need for all the clips or whatever. However, there's the I keep forgetting to download Jolie's I Like Turtles. Maybe I'll have to do that after the show if I remember to do it. Let's see, you got Suzanne. Who else have I not said hello to? Dean, good to see you, Dean. I don't think I've missed anybody yet, but thank y'all for showing up. Appreciate you as always. Without you, this show would not be as good as it is. Because of y'all, because of the sparklers, because of the liberal Danimals, because of the bad mother truckers supporting the show. It makes me trudge through the doldrum that is the Donald Trump presidency. This toxic hellscape, this dystopian land that we live in at this point. Y'all make doing this, covering this stuff more worthwhile. So hey, Kevin, good to see you as well. Thank you for joining. We're almost at 20 right now. We could probably go ahead and start what's going on. I haven't gotten enough. I do want to discuss at some point, probably Wednesday, I do want to discuss Donald Trump's retweeting of the image that had the upside down triangle that's pink with the no across of it. Easy for me to say, with the no symbol across of it, basically utilizing Nazi imagery to support his bigoted new army recruitment standards that him and Pete Hegseth and others in his administration are supporting, because they claim to want to be about meritocracy. They claim to be about, they want to get rid of DEI because they think that by doing that you'll get the best people possible. Well, if you deny trans folk and other LGBTQA plus folks from serving in the military just on that particular issue alone, you end up not getting the best and the brightest. You leave out possibilities of lots of people who could serve their country but who don't, or who can't because you've now blocked them from doing so. Reminds me of a story that I think I've told on this show before, but I'll tell it again. There used to work, one of the previous places that I worked for. There was somebody who was a very bigoted Mississippian who traveled into New Orleans every day for work. He was also rather creepy when it came to being inappropriate with his flirting and stalking and whatever of the women who worked at that same place, making it a toxic environment for those people. And so, you know, but one of the things we were having, he used to eat lunch with us all the time, and I wasn't a fan. Like, one conversation that I had with this guy basically was, he was talking about that, we're talking about something about the Pledge of Allegiance, or with saying under God or whatever, and I was like, well, if it wasn't for Lyndon Johnson, you wouldn't have the under God in the pledge. And he goes, that's the only good thing that Lyndon Johnson ever did. Like, what about when he sent the civil rights workers down to Mississippi to investigate the hate crimes in Philadelphia, Mississippi against the civil rights workers down there? And he goes, as I said, that was the only good thing that Lyndon Johnson ever did. And I wish I had a picture of myself, but my other coworker looked at me and was like, basically described my eyes as that snake cartoon when the eyes just pop out of his head. I was just like, I was befuddled that anybody would say this out loud in a work environment. Like, yeah, maybe we shouldn't have been talking politics at all. I don't know. But, you know, I think it would be reasonable to suggest that it's a good idea to go investigate the murders of civil rights workers, especially when the state wouldn't do anything about it. But, you know, that's the type of people who vote Donald Trump, right? So
it is what it is.
Thank you, Donald. It is a gross story. It's terrible. And I mean, I have plenty of gross stories. I mean, I live in Louisiana. There's plenty of gross stories of racism, bigotry, homophobia, even whatchamacallit, even anti-Semitism having to deal with it. I was living with a previous girlfriend, and she was at some event with her mom or whatever, and it was at some church, the church that they went to, which is also the school that I guess wasn't my mother-in-law, but, you know, my girlfriend's mom worked at as a teacher, as an underpaid teacher or teacher's aide, I think. And like, they mentioned something because I wasn't there. I think it was some religious holiday thing that they were doing. And so, oh, where's your boyfriend? Oh, Dan's not coming today because he's Jewish. And the person was like, "You're living with a Jew?" Like, wow, way to make a guy feel, you know, loved and wanted and accepted, right? Yeah. So, hey, it's Krista. Good to see you, Krista. Let's see. I'm getting my next door neighbor into watching Independent Weenie with me. She's learning a lot. Mazel tov, Krista. That's what we need. And we'll be talking about MSNBC and how they suck even more today. I mean, I've been critical of some of the stuff that MSNBC has done, but this is just, you know, not the icing on the cake, but it's just yet another example of how the mainstream media is failing us when it comes to informing people, informing voters, and, you know, just not kowtowing to the bigoted, racist MAGA GOP that exists right now. Hey, Floyd, good to see you. Thank you for joining. Thank you for smashing that like button, and definitely thank you for supporting Ukraine, and you know, because that's in short supply in this country these days. I mean, still plenty of people like us who support Ukraine, but unfortunately we have a Putin, you know, whatever word I'm looking for. I'm just blanking on the word, but apologist. There you go. Putin apologist, Putin's bitch, whatever you want to call Donald Trump. He's there. Of course, the first thing I thought of when Donald Trump over the weekend got smacked in the face with the giant long thing, the giant fuzzy long thing, I was just thinking that Donald Trump has been like, Vlad does that to me all the time. Putin does that. He's just not as furry. So he's probably used to that. That's probably why he didn't get too much of a shock when it happened another time. So, yeah, Putin is Q. Putin is a piece of S. So what? Trump? He didn't get slapped. He just got hit in the face with a microphone thing, like a fuzzy microphone, like boom mic or something that I guess she was holding it. The reporter was holding it out so far, and I guess it just went bloop and like went right on his, like, here's the microphone, bloop, right on his face. I'm sorry, that might have been a little loud, but yeah, smacked in the face with a long black thing. Is that just a regular Thursday afternoon for you, Impeccable Living?
Oh my.
Sorry. Anyway, we just set her straight on trans youth surgeries. That's awesome. Good to see. I mean, because again, they're not happening. And it's very simple. It's very simple that they're not happening because nobody is going to perform bottom surgery on any kid who's doing it to reaffirm or affirm their gender. Nobody's going to do that on a kid. In fact, they normally don't do that surgery unless you've been on testosterone for over a year, and if you're not, and then they won't start that till you're 18. So you're not going to get that till you're 19. But never begrudge the ability of MAGA to just make up stories and lie in order to get their way and get things done. So I bet that reporter drank for free that night. Oh, if I would have seen her, I'd been like, shots to you. Buy her a White Russian or something, because, that's what Donald Trump likes to swallow. Donald Trump loves to swallow down a White Russian. Right? See, Trump did his Mussolini eyebrows after the windscreen touched his face. I mean, he looked a little lost for a second, and I guess he took it better than his supporters, because his supporters just went full apeshit. He was like, meh, whatever, no harm, no foul. He didn't go after her, because he would not prevent himself from going after her if he felt that this was done purposefully and a slight. And Donald Trump feels that almost anything done to him is purposeful and a slight, because the whole thing about elections being stolen and lawfare and all that other bullshit that Donald Trump likes to blather on about. So we all know that he's not shy when it comes to attacking people, especially attacking people in the media. So the fact that he didn't respond to it, but yet his supporters are still acting ridiculous anyway, just goes to show. Yes, Lisa Green or estrogen. You are absolutely correct on that. I guess I worded it incorrectly simply because that I've actually been on. My mind's been on the fact that I'm very confused that I have to take some testosterone gel daily just to up my levels because I'm running a little low. It has as happens to men as they age. But I was just thinking about that. But yes, I should have just said hormone replacement therapy and not just testosterone. You are correct. Thank you for correcting me. Always, please feel free to correct me if I ever word something wrong or do something wrong. I will not take offense to it whatsoever. Unlike other people, I'm not opposed to being corrected. I want to learn more. I want to be the best version of me that I can be. So, who got pinched today? Oh, not me. But I was forgetting I was going to start the show talking out with an Irish accent. I should have been like, hey, welcome to Liberal Dan Radio, talk from the left, that's right. This is your host, Dan Zimmerman, coming from New Orleans, Louisiana. What is funny, one of the people I don't know, the person that does my writing class that I'll go to, because I have a book that I run around. I should have finished the book during the pandemic. However, he is from Belfast. He has an Irish accent, and it's a Belfast accent because he's from Belfast. And he was talking one time at one of the classes, and I wish I remember what he said, because this would make the story that much better. But one of the other students over here, teacher over here, loud crowded bar where we were at, he goes, Bill, blah, 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 blah. And Bill looks and is like, what did you say? I'm like, he said, and then I said whatever it is that Steve said in an Irish accent. And he looked at me and he was like, that was pretty good. So it is. I'm sorry. Be like, there you go.
It is what it is.
Yes. Dan O. Zimmerman, if you will. Liberal O. Dan Radio. But, yeah. One of the funny things about him is that if he says the word pirate or the word parrot, they both sound exactly the same with his accent. It's like, if you're a parrot with a parrot on your shoulder, like, what? Who has whom on what shoulder? Anyway. Let's see. Krista, not me. I wear my mom's emerald ring. Always have green on. Also painted my toes sparkly green just to be safe. That's a good idea, lass. painting your toes to be green so no one can walk up on you and pinch you, at least correctly. I did tell my wife that just despite the fact that she was wearing green, I was still going to pinch her anyway because I like pinching on her. So, had my son check out Darby O'Gill and the Little People from the library. Well, that's mighty good of you. So, see, be careful with T-gel, it can cross contaminate. Oh, I'm very careful with the T-gel. Trust me. I've told the kids when I have it on, like, look, always make sure to either have a shirt on all the time, but if I don't have one on because it's drying, I'll be like, what? Be careful. I just put on the mids. So, say raise up lights. You just said razor blade. Yeah. See, I've been doing the Irish accent for a bit, so I had to get in an Australian accent. Rise up lights. Rise up lights. It's rise up lights. Yeah, crikey. So I'm not doing that. Not doing the Australian accent as well because I've poisoned my accent with some Irishness. So I guess I'd have to be Ireland. See, my mom had an Irish maiden name. Says Evie's aunt over in the Twitch. I am part Irish, if you will. If you look at my DNA test, I took a DNA test. I might be 0% that bitch, but I did find out that I'm part Irish. I think it's from my mother's side. My father's side is completely like European Jewish, but my mom was adopted, and part of her family was from Ireland and England and all sorts of areas over there, so we can trace our ancestry back then. So, anyway, sorry. I drive some people crazy with my accent too if I do it too much. The only thing I did do today, which I should have done, is I should have gotten some corned beef and cabbage. Made some of the corned beef and cabbage for St. Patty's Day. Anyway, so usually it's my wife that makes me the delicious corned beef and cabbage, but with some potatoes, if you will. But she obviously, for reasons that we all know, she can't do that. So anyway, Sean Connery, I must 250 comb kilo ohms, I guess. Sean Connery, I must ask you a question, but I'll shave it for later. But he's Scottish, which is, the difference between Irishmen and Scotsmen. If you're an Irishman, I think the sound sounds a little bit more calm like this. It really depends what part of Ireland you're from. Because if you're from Dublin, it's more stereotypical, like I'm a wee leprechaun if you're from Dublin. But if you're from Belfast, they talk a little slower and they pronounce the T's a little bit differently. But if you're from Scottish, it just sounds like you got to take a wee crap. Anyway, that's it. See, cabbage makes you have the farts. That's an interesting theory to roll the whole story together. It would be an interesting theory to find out if I overeat cabbage while on Zep bound, will I have sulfur or cabbage burps? I don't know. Hi, there's always after me Lucky Charms. Yes. Scots don't need a special day to get drunk, just any day that ends in Y. Anywho. I could be doing a bunch of accents. I did have some Irish people in my car, and I did the difference between my two, or them British people, and I was talking about the different types of Irish accents that you have. And I did my Dublin one, and I did my Belfast one, and they were pretty impressed with my abilities to do some accents. Although, it's not quite enough for my wife. My wife likes a good Irishman, and, well, she knows that I'm fake. I'm faking it. So, oh God, I'm sorry, Aaron. Yes, Aaron is on a liquid diet. I'm sorry, Aaron. You have to talk. And you can't even have Guinness. I don't like Guinness either. But but you can't even have a good alcoholic liquid diet, if you will. So, Turtle Toes. Hey, Big Hook. Turtle Toes probably has to work because they schedule her in a dastardly way, i.e., so she can't participate in Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from the left. That's right. Where is your Delaware accent? I don't really have a Delaware accent. I mean, I was only born there and I lived there about a week. So, or 30 days, I think. I think when we were 30 days old, I was 30 days old is when we moved to Baltimore. But I don't even have a Baltimore accent. I could talk like a Baltimorean or whatever. Worse, you close in the zinc, so to speak. All the different things that Baltimore folks say. However, I don't have that. The only thing I've ever picked up accent-wise is y'all. I started saying y'all all the time. And the reason I started saying y'all all the time is because when I was a freshman at Tulane, there was one of the guys on my floor had a girlfriend who visited him like almost every weekend. He was from Baton Rouge. She went to LSU, so I think like every other weekend she'd come to see him, and then he'd go up to see her. Yada yada yada. But she was a sweet young woman, and just be like, but she was like y'all, 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 y'all. Everything was y'all. So I started being like, in a loving, mocking way, just y'all, 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 to the point where I started saying it myself. I cursed myself by saying y'all all the time. So, Lisa Green, I've been told I've got a pretty strong Wisconsin, Minnesota accent. How was that? Yeah, Guinness is pretty chewy. Yeah, chewy, not like chewy, but chewy as in you could eat it with a fork. I don't necessarily want a beer that I can eat with a fork. So, I mean, y'all is a great thing. It is a great word. It's not gender specific. You could use it for just any groups of people, and just it's the perfect word. So why everybody should be saying y'all. Y'all should be saying y'all. Anyway, let's go ahead and switch this up, if you will, because the first thing we want to talk about is this bullshit right here. The Minnesota legislature is proposing a bill that will codify Trump derangement syndrome into the law. A bill for an act relating to mental health, modifying the definition of mental illness, adding a definition for Trump derangement syndrome. Minnesota Statutes 2024, sections 245, blah, 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 blah. Minnesota Statutes is amended to read subsection 20, mental illness. A mental illness means Trump derangement syndrome or an organic disorder of the brain or a clinically significant disorder of thought, mood, perception, orientation, memory, or behavior that is detailed in a diagnostic codes list published by the commissioner. Now, a lot of people saying good luck they'll have a lot of good luck, or no one have any luck trying to get Trump derangement syndrome into the DSM, but that's not what's needed here, because basically it's anything in the DSM-5 plus Trump derangement syndrome. And so that goes down: an adult with acute mental illness means an adult who has a mental illness that is serious enough to require prompt intervention, blah, blah, blah. Adding in Trump derangement syndrome. Trump derangement syndrome means the acute onset of paranoia, or in otherwise normal persons, that is in reaction to the policies and presidencies of Donald J. Trump. Symptoms may include Trump-induced general hysteria, which produces an inability to distinguish between legitimate policy differences and signs of psychic pathology in President Donald J. Trump's behavior. This may be expressed by 1. Verbal expressions of intense hostility towards Donald J. Trump. Yo, man, fuck Donald Trump. Okay, I guess, do I qualify now? Do I have TDS? Or overt acts of aggression and violence against anyone supporting President Donald J. Trump or anything that symbolizes President Donald J. Trump. Subsection 29, mental illness. Mental illness means Trump derangement syndrome or any of the conditions included in the most recent editions of the DC 0 to 5 diagnostic classifications of mental health and development disorders, blah, 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 blah. In Minnesota Statutes 2024, section 245I, amended by adding a subdivision to read Trump derangement syndrome means the acute onset of paranoia in otherwise normal persons, that is in reaction to the policies and presidencies, blah, 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 blah. Pretty much the same thing as was included earlier in the law, I guess, restating it in another position. So yes, the Minnesota legislature has nothing better to do than to try and, act childish when it comes to the laws that they pass. And, I understand that they'd like to have their little fun by saying that people have TDS because they're opposed to Donald John Trump and his presidency and his policies or what have you. But to actually to try and codify it into law just brings the childishness to just completely whole new levels. And in reality, to me, the only derangement that exists is those people who are still diehard, dyed in the wool, just unflinching, unchanging supporters of Donald John Trump when he, has done all of the things that he's done. And we will get into some of that in a second. We'll get into some of the ridiculousness that Donald Trump specifically has done. But the idea that they are doing this brings me with one thing came to mind. I mean, there's probably many reasons for doing this, not just the childish behavior. I mean, I don't think it'll ever pass because who's the governor of Minnesota? But Walz. Governor Walz is and there's not a very Republican legislature, if you will. Like, I think the House is one more Republican than Democrat. The Senate is one more Democrat than Republican. So there's no way in hell that this thing passes. But if they try it, who's to say that other people won't? Because that's what these conservatives like to do. They'll try and pass a law, and then they'll try and pass it in all these other states. It's why we've seen an explosion of so-called stand your ground laws, because it was written by Alec, and it gets put. Now, I don't necessarily think that this was written by Alec. I think this was written by people who are way more immature than them. And Alec, well, ugh. But anyway, one concern that I have is this. Extreme risk protection orders, or what Minnesota calls, how Minnesota refers to red flag laws. A Minnesota law will allow certain people starting January 1st, 2024 to request an order from the court to temporarily prohibit someone from purchasing or possessing a firearm during a period of crisis when they are at risk of harming themselves or someone else. Type of order is called an extreme risk protection order, or an ERPO. ERPO directs persons to surrender their firearms and prevents a person from purchasing firearms while the ERPO is in effect. The ERPO's laws empower loved ones or law enforcement to intervene and temporarily prevent someone in crisis from accessing firearms. These laws, sometimes referred to as red flag laws, can help de-escalate emergency situations. There are two types of ERPOs, emergency and long-term ERPOs. If a judicial officer grants an emergency ERPO, it goes into effect right away and lasts for 14 days. Long-term can only be granted after a court hearing. A long-term ERPO lasts between 6 months and 1 year. So if they were able to actually codify into law the bill adding a Trump derangement syndrome as, part of the mental illness that exists, and then they were able to say, well, somebody with TDS fits the definition of somebody who's mentally ill in the state of Minnesota, and as such, we can prevent them from having guns. Because hypocrisy is a conservative prerequisite, and conservatives are always trying to take the guns out of the hands of folks who are not white and of folks who are not conservative. You can go way back to Ronald Reagan's governorship in California when he tried to pass legislation that would keep the Black Panthers from being able to own weapons, and the NRA did nothing because hypocrisy is a conservative prerequisite. Stop and frisk laws. Conservatives love stop and frisk laws. Why? Because stop and frisk laws target black and brown people. The 95% of all the people who were stopped and frisked in New York City alone, 95% of them were either black people or Hispanic people. So they don't care if you take the guns away from black people or brown people or anybody who's not white. They just care if you take away their gun rights. Simple as that. I mean, you can look up videos on YouTube where you can see a white person, strapped with a giant, either an AR-15 or some other form of rifle or long gun, if you will, walking down the street, and the police officer will approach the white person and be like, having a nice conversation with them. They might ask for ID, and the person will be like, I don't have to show you my ID. I am constitutionally carrying this weapon. I have no need to show you any identification if I've done nothing wrong, and carrying a gun around to them is doing nothing wrong. However, if they catch a black person doing the same thing, they will make him get on the ground, drop the gun, clasp his hands behind his head. There was one of the videos that I saw where the guy was walking with his pregnant either girlfriend or wife, and she was made to get down on the ground despite the fact that she was pregnant and she was not holding a gun on her person, at least visibly. But he was required to kind of move the gun away, and the police officer had his weapon drawn, was standing from behind his door, and was yelling at him to, basically escalating the situation. He didn't go approach the black individual and try and say, "Excuse me, sir, why do you feel it's important to be carrying around a gun right now?" He didn't do that to that person like they do to the white people. So this is just another opportunity, another example of conservative hypocrisy of trying to keep the guns out of the hands of their opponents while making sure that they could have guns themselves. What do you think? Do you agree with this new Minnesota law? Do you think it's a government overreach and a violation of just civility, let alone do you believe it would be, if passed into law, which it won't be because, again, Governor Walz, but do you think that it would be used to prevent people, law-abiding citizens, from actually owning a firearm? Agree or disagree with me? Leave your comments down below. Remember to like the video, share, subscribe to the channel, and unless you're a Nazi, have a good day. So anybody who's new watching, including Krista's friend, that's how I'll usually record videos whilst I'm doing the stream live, which enables me to just quickly upload the bits to YouTube. So whenever I have that happen, it doesn't mean I'm ending the show. It just means I'm ending the bit. So, oh, we got Hedge Enemy. My last audio. Anyway, so there you go. Good to see you, Hedge Enemy. Anybody else who I missed coming in as I was talking about that topic, I apologize. Yes, exactly. Governor won't sign it. And yeah, I wanted to make sure that 100% we were clear that this wouldn't be signed by Governor Walz. Won't be signed by Walz at all. It'll be funny if they would, if the other legislature would flip it around and say MAGA is a mental illness too, because that would be hilarious if they just flipped the script on them. Because unlike Michelle Obama, who says when they go low, we go high. No, when they go low, you get down there with them and kick them when they're down. Kick them when they're up, kick them when they're down. Anyway, sorry. Impeccable Living. I love Gay World. Everyone wants to hook up on a Monday night for some reason.
Oh my.
I mean, get it. If you have to watch if you have to watch later on another at another time, I understand it. If you need to go get yourself an eggplant appointment, if you will. Far be it from me to stand in the way of somebody having sex. So, Hedge Enemy, it's definitely mass psychosis. Absolutely. I mean, again, the only people who are deranged when it comes to Trump are the people who are still backing him. Texas Paul was saying, better to buy the gun now before the Republicans ban it. Better to have the need. Scary thing to ponder. Absolutely. I mean, I am not a take the guns out of everybody's hand leftist, if you will. I am not a supporter of just ridiculous, gun bans. I do believe in doing things like, background checks, reasonable things to try and keep guns out of the hands of criminals. And you can do that. And that's not going to stop every criminal from getting a gun, but these people think very binary. They're very binary thinking. They're binary thinking when it comes to gender. They're binary thinking when it comes to good or bad. There's no gray areas. There's no well, if you can't stop every criminal from getting a gun, you shouldn't stop anybody from getting a gun. That's their logic, if you will. See, Floyd, if I wouldn't have my kids, all this nonsense the Republicans are putting out would drive me crazy. Yeah, pretty much. See, government overreaches would return to days where parents would have women committed for being independent. I'm asexual and people have called me over on Twitch mentally ill by some people. Look, and asexuality is 100% valid. This is the thing. Conservatives like to think with their junk. They like to think with their privates. Everything is driven, for the most part, by their private parts. They want to ban gay sex. They want to ban, gay marriage. They're worried about the genitals of children. And for some reason, they can't even consider the fact that somebody might not be into sex as much as they are. Now, I'm sure half of these MAGA incels are obsessed with sex because no one will have it with them. Because, you know, if you're wearing a red hat, it's guaranteed that you're, or at least highly much more likely than not, that you're going to be able to please your partner, regardless of what gender your partner is. I think, I want to say something, but, you know, maybe I would save that comment for Liberal Dan Radio After Dark if we ever do that. So, Big Hook, yes, Trump is now ignoring the courts when it suits him. I think we've discussed, we discussed that, the constitutional crisis that comes with Donald Trump well before. And I even before he defied the courts, I started talking about what would happen if Donald Trump defied the courts. That's why you need to listen to Liberal Dan Radio, Talk from Left, That's Right. Because I predict things that Donald Trump does, and I end up being right more often than not. 3 Supreme Court justices, overturning Roe v. Wade, you know, all that terrible stuff that Donald Trump did. You know, predicted right here on Liberal Dan Radio. I have far too few people who watch the show for as right as I am, which sucks. But they're all worried about the other people's lucky charms. They should concern themselves with their own lucky charms, if you will. DNA doesn't make you my family now. That's true. I mean, nor does the law, nor do legal things. I mean, my mom was legally adopted, and I don't talk to any of those people on that side of the family either. And when mom found her kin, her blood relatives via 23andMe, I don't talk to them either. So I'm an equal opportunity avoider of people who are toxic and who, you know, are just not good for your mental health. It's always good to yeet the people. Let the bridges you burn light your path to the future. Anyway. Let's go ahead. Let's see. Are we going to go back to the main show image, or are we going to... Let's go to this one, I think. So, let's talk about Donald. Actually, before we do this, we're going to play this week's Hypocrite of the Week. So, hold on a second. This week's Hypocrite of the Week is Donald Trump, and anyone being an apologist for his using a kid as a prop during his Pettysburg address. Conservatives cried that Democrats didn't applaud the child, but that's because we knew that Trump didn't care about cancer survivors at all. Proof? The 10-year-old girl whose family was deported for seeking medical care for her. To see who next week's Hypocrite of the Week will be, tune in live Mondays and Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Central on liberaldanradio.com or twitch.tv/liberaldanradio for more talk from the left. That's right. And there you go. This week's Hypocrite of the Week. Donald Trump and everybody else who supports him on these hypocritical issues. Let's see. It's Josh. Some folks think 23andMe is a dating site. Depending on what area of the country you live in, that would either be people from West Virginia, Alabama, or Arkansas. So, but I'm sure there are other areas. Like, you know, they're actually north of Lake Pontchartrain, there's an area of Washington Parish that's very disturbing. Where I think the family tree is about as straight as the street. So, yeah, Trumpocrit. It should be called Trumpocrit of the Week. Maybe I should have a subset of hypocrites that's just Trumpocrit. Hey, it's Chad Bostic. Long time no see. You've been on vacation from the internet or from the show, or you just went on a long vacation from all your proceeds when you sold your Truth Social stock and made bank, apparently. So, Chad, I met my cousin on 23andMe. But did you kiss your cousin after meeting your cousin on 23andMe? Hope not. I don't think you did. But, you know, some people in certain parts of the countries may. Long vacation. Where'd you go? Where'd you go on vacation? Let us, inquiring minds want to know. Let's see. Let's just kind of scroll back and see if I've missed anything. Where did Dan go? Is that when I did Hypocrite of the Week? I don't know. Anyway, I just, you know, switched the alternate screen so I can more easily upload that video too. And maybe 23andMe is a project of the Bean Jesuit Sisterhood. Maybe. See, best part, hour and a half ride home. Had to put up with my fart jokes, although most were hilarious. He is 9. I mean, what's a good long car trip without at least a few good fart jokes, right? Let's see. How long does Gatorade last? That was random bad Gatorade. I don't know how long. I think it depends if it's open or not. Should have a Best Buy, whatever. But yeah, if you open it, I definitely would drink it sooner rather than later. Anyway, so now that we've played Hypocrite of the Week, we're going to start talking about all of these examples of Donald Trump's hypocrisy. And we'll start with the case that we talked about in Hypocrite of the Week. The parents deported to Mexico while seeking a brain cancer treatment for their young daughter, young American daughter, because despite the fact that they are not citizens, their daughter is. And as I understand it, these people crossed the border legally, providing the documentation to show immigration officials, to show the border officials that they had business in the United States. They were going up to see the child's doctor because she had like brain cancer, and there's doing some treatment after the cancer. There's apparently still some swelling that has to be dealt with or whatever. I mean, we don't know all the details, but I think that's the details that I've been able to cull from most of the sites. But again, the parents are undocumented. The child is a 10-year-old U.S. citizen. Of course, Donald Trump's trying to end the automatic birthright citizenship, even though there's no reason for him to do so other than the fact that he's a xenophobic bigot. Again, the girl's care was interrupted last month when she, her parents, and 4 of her siblings were detained by a Border Patrol checkpoint in Texas and were subsequently removed from the U.S. to Mexico following the parents' decision to take their children with them rather than separate. And of course, Homan, who puts the hoe in Homan, Trump's border czar or what have you, he was like, well, if they had the option to leave her here, why would you do that? How could you possibly leave a 10-year-old here to... Who would that 10-year-old go with? And how would they be sure that the 10-year-old would get the needed medical treatment? You can't be, because you can't believe anything that comes out of this administration. So if the administration were to say, hey, if you leave your daughter here, they can get the treatment that they need, you just have to go back, I wouldn't believe them. Not one bit. And you shouldn't either. And they shouldn't have either. So it's reasonable that they took their daughter back with them, but it was unreasonable for them to be booted from the country in the first place simply because of the fact that, you know, they were, quote, undocumented, but they were getting their child needed treatment. This is why they're not just childish, they're not just hypocritical, they're not just lawless, but they lack ethics and morals. You know, Donald Trump could sit there and parade that young black boy, the young black kid, up in front of everybody, give him a badge because he's, you know, an honorary Secret Service agent. You know, good on that child for beating cancer. Mazel tov. 100% happy for you and happy for your family. Nobody should ever have to lose their kid. But the idea that Democrats are somehow terrible and awful and mean because they wouldn't applaud the poor kid. No, it's not that we weren't applauding the kid. We weren't applauding Donald Trump. We didn't want to encourage Donald Trump's use of children as, you know, props, tools for his political purposes. Right? I mean, that should be clear to everybody now. And again, the proof is in the pudding. If Donald Trump and his administration cared about young kids with cancer, they would, you know, maybe make an exception to their horrible treatment of immigrants in this country. Maybe they would make an exception for, you know, the case of a young American citizen who needs medical treatment. But again, they don't care about kids with cancer. They care about making political points. And if Donald Trump can make a political point by using a black kid as a prop, he's going to do so. If Donald Trump can make a political point by deporting the family of a 10-year-old girl, he will do so. But it's not the only example. There was somebody who was deported because of a drug charge or what have you, and that person who was here legally was deported to a country that she's not even from. How do you deport somebody to a country that you're not even from? It's because, again, as we've talked about in the show, Donald Trump, Doge, and anybody in this administration have this problem where they won't measure twice before cutting once. They're just all cutting all willy-nilly, and they don't care who they harm. They don't care whatsoever who gets harmed with their deplorable actions. And then, of course, you have the case of Rasha Alawieh. I'm sorry if I pronounced the name wrong. Last month, according to the Department of Homeland Security, Rasha Alawieh traveled to Beirut, Lebanon to attend the funeral of Hassan Nasrallah, a brutal terrorist, blah, blah, blah. Of course, again, why I don't have any reason to believe the Trump administration on this either. Because, again, they've lied. They have told multiple falsehoods. They've gotten multiple things incorrect. The idea that elderly people are getting, like ancient people who are over 150 years old, they're getting Social Security. That's not true. In fact, one of the so-called dead people that was supposedly collecting Social Security while dead isn't even dead. They're alive and well and living, I think, in Seattle or at least in Washington State. So why would I believe that this doctor was supporting this terrorist? What this doctor was openly admitted anything to Border Patrol. And of course, this is the White House's image. The White House showing a picture of Donald Trump leaning out the McDonald's window after he made himself some fries because he didn't make it for anybody else because that was just another publicity stunt. They're just acting childish. I shouldn't even say that they're acting childish. They are childish. It's not an act. They are childish. And of course, this was, this picture. Then of course, again, they tweeted it again and had to say, bye-bye, Rasha, with a hand wave. Again, childish. Even if everything that said was true, even if everything that they brought up about this doctor was 100% accurate, which again, no reason to believe, and the onus is on them to prove that, it should be on them to prove that their actions are legitimate and legal or what have you, I have no reason to believe it. But even if it was true, why act like this? Why why go to the lowest common denominator? But that's because the lowest common denominator are his supporters, the MAGA folks, the poorly educated who Donald Trump said he loved after the 2016 Nevada primaries. This is not behavior that a president of the United States should have. Not one bit. And for people to applaud this behavior just goes to show that Hillary Clinton was right and that a vast bunch of his supporters are a basket of deplorables. There's no other way to describe it. None whatsoever. Let's see. Again, the Reuters, because I can pronounce it, unlike Steele on MSNBC. Again, deported doctor deported Lebanon had photos sympathetic to Hezbollah on vote. What does that even mean? What does sympathetic mean? It's absurd. And now, this is a person who wasn't, acting like, a terrorist in the United States. This is a person who, was just a doctor who went back home to visit family. That's the only thing I'll believe right now. And again, even if everything was true, don't act like a bunch of children. But there's even more. There's even more with immigration and deportation. Donald Trump says that, they went and they're going to deport people, filled them up by the plane and sent them off on their way. And the judge gave a verbal order that said, no, they have to come back. And then apparently the written order came out after the planes took off. But a verbal order should have the same, weight as a written order. Especially because I'm sure there's a documentation of it being written down by the court stenographer. So it's in writing. It was just given to them verbally. But as, again, we said before on the show, what happens if Donald Trump decides that he's going to ignore court orders? What happens if Donald Trump decides that he's not going to do what all other presidents have done in the past in this country, respect the idea that we have three co-equal branches of government, respect the fact that each branch of government works as a check and balance on the other branches of government. Once you start having a president that's like, well, I don't have to follow these orders because I am the executive and I'm immune to whatever charges they want to throw against me, you then start losing the country. You then go into dictatorship. Because if there's nobody available to stop him, like i.e. the courts, then what? And then there's a whole discussion. There are some people who I know who are on the left who are trying to say like, oh, what's going to happen? You know, could they be put in contempt of court? You can't there's criminal contempt and there's civil contempt. And my understanding of criminal contempt, no, other people have disagreed with me on this already this past week or so. My understanding of criminal contempt of court is that you're basically making a mockery of the orders. So if you don't like listen to the judge in the courtroom and basically tell him, you know, if the judge tells you to shut up or whatever, or the judge tells you to pay a fine and you don't, you know, that could very well be civil contempt of court. But criminal contempt of court is blatantly disregarding a court telling you not to do something and doing it anyway. But Donald Trump, because of the Supreme Court ruling, can't be charged with crimes. He just can't. Because he's considered to be immune of all official actions. And this, despite the fact that it's a lawless action, it should be considered a lawless action, is still also considered to be an official act, or would be by the horrible ruling by the Supreme Court that basically gave Donald Trump carte blanche to do everything he wants. Especially because even if the items that he's working on are not considered to be official acts, they're assumed to be, but even if they're not, you can't subpoena the White House for communications based on that, so how do you have a trial? So then what happens if one of his cohorts, one of the people who he put into positions of power, then violates the court order? I mean, Donald Trump could just simply say he was following my orders. Of course, we all know how good of a defense that is. But if it's criminal contempt, that means the president can absolutely pardon a criminal contempt charge if it's federal criminal contempt. Now, if it's civil contempt, there's some varying legal theories as to whether or not, but I would put money on it, if I had to bet, that if Donald Trump tried to pardon somebody who was charged with civil contempt of court federally, if he tried to pardon that person, that the Supreme Court would come around and ultimately say, that's part of your pardon powers as well. Even if it shouldn't be, they would say it is. And that's one of the problems that people on the left have, is simply that they're not willing, they're trying to think that things are normal now. Things are not normal now. In a normal presidency, if someone had like federal civil contempt charges against them, other presidents wouldn't bat an eyelash. They wouldn't sit there and be like, oh, okay, I'm going to pardon you. They wouldn't challenge it. I mean, they might offer to help fight, the case in court to help defend their own employee, but will they, just flat out try and pardon? I don't think the past presidents would, but he will. He would, and he'd push the line. He would push the envelope. He would basically require the courts to make a ruling on it, and the Supreme Court is currently stacked in his favor. Yes, we've seen some examples of, even some of the worst conservative justices making the right decision occasionally, like Roberts and Barrett did when it came to the USAID funding. Then again, who's to say that Donald Trump's going to listen to that either? Thus creating even more of a constitutional crisis. Chad goes, let's see, a judge cannot order the president to stop troop movements overseas or intervene in peace talks. We're not at war. This is not relating to a war. This is the movement and deportation of individuals who the Trump administration has deemed to be here illegally, which, again, anytime that happens, I don't believe any of it. I don't believe the Trump administration will be honest about anybody. I believe that they'll fully deport people who shouldn't be deported because they're trying to pander to their xenophobic base who love their xenophobic president. That being said, people have said, oh, there's nothing that could have been done. The planes had already taken off. You could order the planes back. You could bring the planes back. Now, of course, the judge has said since they've now landed over there, there's no jurisdiction for the judge to require them to be forcibly brought back. But still, the Trump administration willfully violated a verbal order from a judge. And there should be repercussions to that. And if there's no repercussions to that, what's going to stop him from doing it again? Anyway, what do you think? Agree, disagree? Leave your comments down below. Remember to like the video, share, subscribe to the channel, and of course, unless you're a Nazi, have a good day. That was number 2. It is a number 2. See, Brandon Woods, a judge can do that. There was a lot of court cases during Gulf War I and II, if they were ever legal. We don't have to be at war. It says the very first sentence of the act he was invoking. Yeah, but the act he invoking, the judge said it wasn't true. It wasn't valid here. So, but yes, Hedge Enemy's right. Then he pardons them. He will pardon everybody who is charged with contempt of court. And he'll let then his Supreme Court decide whether or not you can, pardon somebody with civil contempt or criminal contempt or what have you. But then who's in charge? I should have included this in the video, but I didn't. Who's in charge? Who is responsible for acting on people who were charged with contempt of court in the federal courts? It's the U.S. Marshal Service. U.S. Marshal Service works for, somewhat for the courts, but also as part of the Department of Justice. Department of Justice supposed to work for the country, but this Department of Justice works for Donald Trump. So do we believe that the U.S. Marshals would be free to be able to lock people up or put people in jail for violating the judge's orders and if they're deemed to be in contempt of court? Or would the Trump administration say, nope, you don't do that. You don't put these people in jail. You do not have the authority to do so. I'm pardoning them. Tough luck. Because it's going to be the latter. So, did the judge check the fuel levels on the plane or weather conditions? That order may have put every life on the plane at risk. It should then be the responsibility of the Trump administration to say this was the current reading on the fuel levels. But again, they were ordered by the judge before the planes left to not deport them. They were ordered to not deport them. The Trump administration is trying to make some silly argument that a written order trumps the verbal order, but it shouldn't. And just more insane legal theories by Donald Trump and his ilk. So, again, these people are absurd, and they don't give a crap who they hurt or what have you. Let's see, a British invasion of the Beatles is now considered an act of war. Josh, didn't Holman violate the order, not Trump? Well, that's the thing. Again, if Holman works for Trump. I'm sure Trump ordered Holman to do these things. But even if he didn't, can you hold Holman responsible? No. Because if they say you're in contempt and the judge tells the marshals, go arrest that person, Trump's going to be like, nope, you can't. You work for the Department of Justice, and if you try and arrest Holman, we're going to fire you. And then you won't have the authority to act on anything. Because that's what he does. Good night, Suzanne. Thank you for joining. Hey, Kelly. Good to see you. And anybody else who I haven't said hello to yet. If I've missed you, I do apologize. Chad says separation of powers. But there's... Separation of powers is one thing, but also each branch of government is supposed to be a check on the other. 3 co-equal branches of government that have checks and balances on the other ones. That's why the courts have the ability to do judicial review, to review whether or not the actions being done by the president or how the law is being implemented or the laws passed by Congress determine whether or not they're constitutional or not, or they follow underneath the other laws that have been already previously created. So... let's talk about this other thing for a second. So Trump think he has unlimited power. His minions don't even see it yet. Well, most of his minions don't care because they want him to have unlimited power. They're happy. They'd be happy with dictator Trump. They're happy to salute and bow down to King Trump.
Well, I didn't vote for you.
So, honestly, I'm 50-50 on it was right or wrong. I'm no lawyer. I mean, I'm not a lawyer either, and I didn't stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night either. However, I've been told that I have a good understanding of the law. And, as we've seen when we go through, like, the rulings, like we went through Dobbs v. Jackson and how terrible that ruling was. I basically made arguments about Alito's arguments and said this is why he's wrong. And then we went to the dissent. I think Kagan wrote the dissent. We went to the dissent, and Kagan had basically just said everything that I said in the dissent as well. So, so either I have a great legal mind for a layperson, or Alito's ruling is so dumb that anybody with working brain cells should be able to see it. Maybe it's a little column A, maybe it's a little column B. Thank you, Chad, for saying I trust your sniffer. You do tend to be right a lot. Thank you for pointing that out. Appreciate you. So let's go on to this next topic, shall we? This. Democrats lose, not because of so-called 80-20 issues, but because of spinelessness. So the 80-20 rule is not what we're, like the Pareto principle, is not what we're talking about. That 80% of all outcomes are derived from 20% of causes. That is not the 80-20 rule that we're talking about. That is not what we mean when we say 80-20. The 80-20 thing is something that conservatives have been bringing up recently as to why the Democrats have lost so much. Because, of course, we should listen to conservatives when it comes to why Democrats are losing, right? That makes total and complete sense. But the 80-20 rule basically says the Democrats care about issues and fight for issues that only 20% of the country believes in and 80% disagree with. And that's why Democrats lose. Because they're supporting these social issues that most Americans either don't care about or whatever. And I just call BS on that whole bunch of crap. Do you know why Democrats lose? Is because Democrats lack a spine. You had 10 Democrats who signed on to the censuring of Al Green, who absolutely shouldn't have done so. Because, all those other people that caused disruptions, they didn't get censured by the House either when it came to the disruptions that night. When they sung na 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 hey hey goodbye, that was a lack of decorum. But did these Democrats do anything about that? No, they did not. You do not help the Republicans if the Republicans are not bringing you a seat at the table. Same thing with Chuck Schumer and the Democrats in the Senate. You do not help the Republicans if they're not giving you a seat at the table. The Republicans, AOC is right. The Republicans have both houses. Slim majorities in each house, but they have both houses. They should be able to pass almost anything they want to. I mean, I think a continuing resolution that's just budgetary, you should be able to pass with a resolution or reconciliation. And then you only need 50 votes plus one, plus Vance, so to speak. But, again, the Republicans should be able to get all this stuff passed without the Democrats' help. Because that's what happens. They say elections have consequences. Well, the consequence of y'all acting like this should very well be that the Democrats are not going to help you do anything. And if you are going to ask the Democrats for help, but then even ask, if you're going to tell the Democrats that they need to help get these things passed, or else they're going to harm the country, then you have to invite the Democrats to the table. Schumer should have absolutely said, we are going to not vote for this unless you get these certain things into this legislation that we are demanding. And if you don't put it in the legislation, we're not going to sign your stupid bill. And then once the Republicans decide that they're going to, if the Senate Republicans then decide, hey, we're going to work with the Democrats to make a more consensus bill because we need their votes to get this passed, and then the Republicans in the House then lose votes so it can't pass when you're in conference, then guess what? You then have to convince the Democrats in the House to then support it to get it to pass. But there's a whole big misconception here, and one of the things that pissed me off when I saw this is MSNBC posted this article. Senate Democrats had a no-win position. Chuck Schumer made the right call. So who said this? Was it Bernie? Was it Biden? Was it Walz? Was it Gavin Newsom? No. Charlie Dent, former representative for Pennsylvania's 15th congressional district. What did they leave out here? What did they leave out in this by Charlie Dent, former representative for Pennsylvania's 15th congressional district? Charlie Dent was a Republican member of the House when he served for the 15th congressional district of the state of Pennsylvania. Why the hell is MSNBC citing a Republican former congressperson on why Charles Schumer was right? He goes on to say, with the threat of government shutdown averted after the Senate passed a government funding bill Friday, Washington and the nation can breathe a sigh of relief. But in the aftermath, Senate Majority Leader Schumer is the object of angry Democrats in Congress and across the country who wanted to fight with Trump and congressional Republicans. As a former senior member of the House Appropriations Committee, I'm a veteran of numerous government funding fights. I know what causes shutdowns and the difficulty of reopening the government after a shutdown. Schumer faced an incredibly difficult predicament, and he was right to support keeping the government open. Let's see. A Republican is saying that he was right for supporting the Republicans? I am shocked, I say. Let's start with the basics. Since the start of the fiscal year in October, the federal government has been operating on a continuing resolution, which means government was being funded with limited exemptions at levels set by the previous fiscal year. The bill enacted on Friday extends funding through September, the end of the fiscal year. It funds the government largely at current levels, although defense spending is slightly increased, while domestic spending is slightly decreased. Slightly my ass. This is why you don't let Republicans give their opinions on why a Democrat is doing the right thing or not. Slightly, let me ask. The amount of money that was raised for defense and was lowered for domestic spending was not slight. There's a word to describe governing by CR. Failure. Yes, there is a word that is a failure. We should not be governing by continuing resolution. But whose fault is it? If the Republicans, again, have both houses, they should absolutely be able to pass this by themselves. And if they can't, and if they have to come hat in hand to the Democrats to say, please help us pass this legislation, sir, may I have some more? That's the Republicans who need to bring the Democrats to the table and make concessions and make compromises, because if they need our votes, they should have to earn our votes. And if they don't earn our votes, whose responsibility is it for it not getting passed? If you needed the Democrats and you didn't ask the Democrats, you didn't invite the Democrats to the table, the fault of that is the Republicans who refuse to give the Democrats a seat at that table that they needed to have sitting there in order to pass the damn thing. The executive branch, especially the Pentagon, have real difficulty operating under CRs. Oh, boo-hoo. That's even more reason to not let them get their way all willy-nilly and just cave, Charles Schumer. That's another reason why if it's going to have the Trump administration have a more difficult time doing all its Doge crap, then Chuck Schumer should have been up there saying, look, you want this passed? Sit down, have a negotiation. Here are demands. Give us some of our demands. Lose some of what you want. Make a compromise. That's it. But that's not what they did. See, others will move too flush and in need of reduction. It is very difficult for the executive branch to move monies between accounts without congressional sign-off. Not that this fact will discourage the Trump administration from trying. Of course they won't. But while a year-long CR is a telltale on the federal government, it's better than government shutdown. Schumer is being pummeled for his decision by his angry Democratic base for not fighting the CR. Yes, we're pissed off because this is why we lose. We don't lose because we fight the so-called culture issues. You know what was an 80-20 issue back in the 30s and 40s? The fact that Jews were people, or less of people, that Jews should have been sent off to camps in Germany and in the entirety of Europe that was controlled by Adolf Hitler. Sometimes standing with the 20 is the responsible, ethical, moral thing to do. And while we as Democrats need to do a much better job explaining why government shouldn't be used to punish trans folk, to punish LGBTQA folk, to punish immigrants, regardless of their legal status or their documentation status. While we could do a better job, I've for a long time have said that Democrats need better wordsmiths. We absolutely need to do a better job of explaining why these issues are important. Fighting against the Republican lies about what DEI is, about supporting diversity, equity, inclusion. Because that's what these people oppose, not the straw man DEI that they bring up with. Because when a Republican, again, calls something a DEI hire, odds are they just mean a black person, or better yet, or worse yet, if you will, they're using it in place of the N-word. See, blah, blah, blah. Trump would be empowered to determine which federal employees were essential and non-essential. Trump surely would have designated as many federal employees as possible non-essential and furlough them. So-called Doge would run wild, putting even more employees at risk of permanent dismissal. Recalling those furloughed non-essential employees would have been enormously challenging. Again, there's been court. That's why you have the courts to stand up with and say that these firings are illegal or not illegal. But the fault of the harm that would be caused by allowing a shutdown to happen is not the Democrats' fault. It's the Republicans' fault for not inviting the Democrats, or would have been had Chuck Schumer not caved like a spineless coward that he is. For Democrat political struggles against Trump administration, a shutdown would have been redirected the focus away from the economy, Trump's destructive tariffs, appeasement of Russia, and betrayal of Ukraine. Look, for him being a Republican, he's saying a lot of things that make sense. I'll give him that. I mean, if he's sitting there saying that we're appeasing Russia and betraying Ukraine, maybe he's one of the good ones. Maybe he's not a MAGA Republican, so good on him for that. But still, MSNBC should not be having a Republican tell me why I should not be angry over the Democrats caving, over the Democrats' spineless nature when it comes to government shutdowns, and demanding that if the Republicans need our help, that they should have to earn our help. And if you force them to earn our help, then you end up getting better legislation that's going to hurt fewer people. But there are some even liberals and leftists who are citing this article as a reason why. Maybe not leftists, but there are Democrats and liberals who are out there who are trying to justify Schumer's action by using this article to defend Schumer's actions. There's no defense right now of Chuck Schumer's actions, not one bit. You had the ability, the rare opportunity in this government, to force the Republican Party to give you things, to give you concessions in law, to not be as extreme, to put some of the things that you feel are important, to maybe even clamp down on Doge some. But they won't do that, and they didn't, and they can't do that. Why? Because Charles Schumer folded like a cheap suit. He says, but had Schumer chosen to fight, Democrats would likely have shouldered the part, if not most of the blame, for what could have been a protracted, painful shutdown. If the Democrats would have gotten the blame, it would have been because of apologists like you, apologists like Schumer, and people who work in the Democratic circles who don't know how to wordsmith properly. That's why the Democrats would have gotten blame. If you get good messaging out there to explain why the Democrats would do what they did and why doing that was essential and necessary, not just for the republic, but for the people that it harms by allowing the Republicans to just have their way. This is why so many people in government who are Democrats need to be replaced. And again, to go back to why do Democrats lose? It's because we don't stand up to Republicans, we cave to Republicans. It's because people on the left will look at people like Charles Schumer, will look at other Democrats and be like, why would I vote for these Democrats if they're just going to give the Republicans what they want? You don't win elections by ignoring your voter base. Do we need working class voters? Abso-frickin-lutely. Working class voters are learning now, although those that voted for Donald Trump in this last election, they're learning now just how bad that decision was. And we as Democrats need to do a much better job explaining why Donald Trump was never going to give these people what they were promised. Again, Lucy holding the football for Charlie Brown is what many of these labor folks were like for, deciding to vote for Trump this time. I know these working class blue collar workers don't care about these social issues. Well, if they don't care about it on the pro, they shouldn't care about it on the con either, right? If or vice versa. If they don't care about it, explain to them, look, the odds of a trans person waiting till, trans people are not, transitioning as kids. But the odds of, that affecting your life, slim to none. But the odds that tariffs are going to kill your jobs, kill the economy, make your paycheck weaker, that's a lot, and that's going to hurt you. And again, we need to do a better job explaining to the working class why they need to stick with us, because we're the only ones who are going to have their back. We're going to fight for the protections that labor has fought for decades, for centuries. But if you just cave to the Republican Party, if you cave to Speaker Johnson, if you cave to Donald Trump and Doge and MAGA or whatever, the people on the left are going to be able to further justify their decisions to stay away from the Democratic Party because they're going to be, what's the difference? And while we know that there's a difference, because we clearly see the difference, we clearly knew what was coming down the pike. We knew. But if you're going to run away from the left, you're going to run away from winning every single damn time. Anyway, what do you think? Agree, disagree? Leave your comments down below. Remember to like the video, share it, subscribe to the channel, and unless you're a Nazi or a Schumer apologist, have a good day. Let's flip back to the main show image. First and foremost, thank you, Arizona Sunflower, for the super sticker, and thank you, Chad, for the super chat. One thing Republicans and Democrats can agree on: Schumer needs to go. Baby steps. Yeah, I mean, I was pissed off. I once said, and I still probably hold this belief, that, oh wait, kimchi's here. It's the goddess kimchi. See, when I start ranting, I should have actually put that in front of a Fat Man Rant sign. I should have done this instead. But, it is, wait, sorry, it's Trump's line.
It is what it is.
Thank you, Donald. But I should have maybe done that as a Fat Man Rant instead, but it's going to be its own separate video. Big hook. The question was, do we hurt lots of people with the shutdown, or do we let the CR speak for itself and who it harms? Angry, poor people might be more impressive for the shock value, but the GOP didn't care. Again, and this whole administration is going to harm people. The idea that fighting against the CR and making a and risking a shutdown would harm people, what more can they do? I mean, I guess I don't want to challenge them, but people are going to be harmed in these 4 years of the Donald Trump administration. Absolutely. And forever long, he decides to say he decides he wants to be dictator for, right? So See, they should make them use the reconciliation clause. You only get to use it twice in a year, if that's right. I don't know if you get to use it twice a year or not, but absolutely they should have they would have had to have used reconciliation if the Democrats would have been like, nope, we're not helping you. Sorry, they would have had to use reconciliation. But then it has to strictly be only budget. Has to only be a budgetary bill, which I think the CR was mostly, but, you know, there are things in there that probably weren't, that would probably not meet the scrutiny that would be required to have something be a simple reconciliation bill. But let's see. Chad, Chuck Schumer screwed the pooch by not having a game plan and having everyone on board. I believe he was right, but that doesn't mean it was right for the sentiment of the party. Yeah. I mean, I think it was wrong, but again, it's ineffectiveness when he decides that he's going to, he's just ineffective whatsoever. And if he's just going to hand the keys over to the Republican Party, you're no use to me. Republican would have done the same thing. Now, I don't think the state of New York is ever going to vote for a Republican senator. But what's the moral difference if you vote for a Republican senator or if you vote for the Democratic senator who's just going to cave to the Republicans? Doesn't make any sense. But yes. Shout out to the goddess Kimchi. Thank you for joining the show. You had company. Of course, company's more important. Family friends are more important than us. I'm not saying that sarcastically or facetiously. You know, family, you know. There's always time to watch Liberal Dan Radio. You can always watch past episodes if you miss an episode. No biggie. Of course, that being said, we love having the goddess Kimchi around as much as possible. So, see, they're basically banning everything that's not a white male out of military history online, which is just, again, deplorable. And again, will Chuck Schumer stand up to that? What will Chuck Schumer stand up for? If he won't stand for anything, he'll fall for everything. I think another line I'm stealing from Hamilton. See, labor is aesthetically for Trump. They gave a fuck now, but too late, or they will soon. That's a reality. That's just who they are, unfortunately. No, I mean that there is labor. There are plenty of folks who are part of labor who understand that the Republicans are never going to have their back. But again, Lucy in the football. See, from the makers, we were aware many users reporting a failure to our 2025 update. We're working to correct this mistake. Thank you for your patience in staying with God-given games. Despite who the family is. Yep. It depends on who the family is. Exactly. I mean, yeah. Chosen family. You can still choose your given family, but you're still choosing to keep them around. Your chosen family is the important thing, which can include friends, loved ones, other folks, etc. Let's see, it's 9:30. Let's go ahead and we will go ahead and open up the phone lines. 562-LIBDAN1, 562-LIBDAN1, 562-542-3261 if you would like to join the conversation. Be it Big Hook or anybody else, you are free to do so. You know, we don't shrug or complain about small, you know, little curses that in there. Just don't be a terrible person when you call in. And of course, we all know Big Hook is a wonderful person. Let's see. Schumer is the weak grandpa who misspeaks and looks as angry as a deer caught in the headlights. Unfortunately, that's what he left us. He basically left us all flat-footed. He left us. He gave us he's giving away the House to the Republicans. He might argue that he's not. He might argue that he's still there to do the work. But in order for me to believe that you're doing the work, you have to actually do the work. Shocking. Shocked, I say. I know. So the other article, let's see, the purpose of party renewal. I thought I saw something pop up. Oh, Aaron banned somebody over on Twitch. Good, thank you, Aaron. So yeah, let's see. The purpose of party renewal. A time comes for every political party when its policies and dominant assumptions no longer meet either the public's expectations. We believe the Democratic Party has reached one of these moments and stands in urgent need of renewal. Renewal relies more than communications, organization, mobilization. It requires the party to ask itself hard questions about the reasons for its dwindling support among the groups it has long taken for granted. See, there's the thing. Long taken for granted. I mean, the left has fought for workers' rights. The right opposes workers' rights. The right supports so-called right-to-work legislation. So, let's see. The key challenge to a sustainable Democratic Party majority, losing the working class, as the 2024 election made clear, populist revolution. And again, the idea that Trump is a populist is just so full of crap. The idea that this website that wants to renew the Democratic Party somehow, but calls Trump a populist, it just means that I'm going to automatically be disagreeing with a lot of things that they say, because Trump was never a populist. He's a faux populist. He may run on populism, but that doesn't make him a populist whatsoever. He's an oligarch. He is somebody who supports the rich and wealthy folks and not anybody else. But first and foremost, let's bring on Big Hook onto the show. Hey, Big Hook, what's going on? How are things in the Great White North?
You know, they are what they are. So I'm guessing, like everybody in the U.S. is living on a prayer and in full panic mode at this point. Because,
we're halfway there at least.
Yeah, it's disturbing to see all the things that he is doing now. I mean, at this point, he's defying the courts. He's, you know, all over the place. I don't know.
Oh, we do have somebody
else. I don't know
calling,
whether to take him seriously or
I'm
just.
I'm gonna put the person on. Wait, hold on. Wait, hold on.
To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail, press 2.
Hold on, let's switch back here. I'm sorry. Hedge Enemy, please call back when Big Hook is done. I think we have Big Hook back on.
Yeah, I'm.
Or Hedge Enemy, you can also, there we go. You can also stay on hold, but you can call back when Big Hook hangs up, because we can't do multiple calls apparently. So anyway.
Yeah, I don't know where to take this anymore, because I mean, you were left with no good options, whereupon you either played into the Republicans' hands or you played into the continuing resolution debacle. I agree. Schumer, he is not the spokesperson necessary for the job. He can't convey the message. He looks like he's literally, you know, on his last few breaths in terms of, you know, being there. Now, the question is does he have knowledge that is necessary to fix the problems and to perhaps write the laws that will fix all these loopholes that Trump is currently walking through and making bigger? I mean, the thing that Trump did that disturbs me the most is that he has revealed all the weaknesses in democracy, much the same way Hitler did. And I mean, if you look at it, he is literally following the Hitler playbook. I mean,
I've been saying that since 2016.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, but, you know, like he goes and he takes a whole bunch of Venezuelans and then he drops them in El Salvador with life sentences. And it's like, for what? Where's the proof of the crimes that they committed? As far as I know, you only get a life sentence if you've actually killed someone, you know, and where's the evidence for that?
Right. The onus should be on the Trump administration to prove what it is that they're saying. And of course they're not going to, because the people who support them don't need proof. He says something and they believe it. Simple as that. And then if it turns out that the belief was wrong, they don't care, because they like the end result anyway. So,
well, I mean, that's the thing. He's following the rule. It's better to ask for forgiveness than to ask for permission, and that's what he's doing right now. He's just basically going and doing stuff and saying, oh, well, if I made a mistake, I'm sorry, but it's too late now. You can't do anything to fix it. It's like, where do you go with that? It's
and I don't think even he follows that adage, because I don't think Donald Trump would ever ask for forgiveness. He just doesn't ask for permission, and then doesn't care if what people think about it, because enough people support his dumbass to be able to, so that he doesn't have to worry about asking for forgiveness. He just says,
but that's the thing. It's been a pattern of behavior for him his whole life. He has tied up people in courts his whole life and refused to pay the bills that he's supposed to pay. And he always walks off with the upper hand because he's like, oh, I have a big enough nest egg that I can drag people through the courts to the point where they just absolutely give up because they can't afford the lawyers. And it's a legal battle. And he's doing the same thing with the presidency. He's using all the legal angles and then going, and the only time he gets caught out is when he actually has to go before a judge, and the judge says, this is horse shit. This isn't what the law means, and you're not allowed to use it that way. And, where do you go from there?
Especially when I mean, he can say it's horseshit, but the bigger issue is not just he disagrees with it, but that he just doesn't follow it. And again, that's the constitutional crisis that we're, as a country, facing now, is that if Donald Trump is not going to follow the tradition of presidents, I mean, I'm not going to say that presidents have always, quote, respected the judicial branch, but when the courts say something is wrong, presidents typically are like, okay, we'll either fix it or to make it right, or we'll listen to the court what they say. Like, Barack Obama, when he didn't just continue on with the regulations that were passed by the people who were in charge, I think, of the National Labor Relations Board, if I have that correctly. And the Republicans made the argument that he didn't appoint people to it in a proper way, or he didn't use recess appointments correctly, and that because the Senate was never on official recess, and if the Senate is not on official recess, you can't make a recess appointment. And Obama was like, okay, the court said I was wrong. There we go, and he just dropped it at that. If a judge out there and said these appointments you made were not legal, he would be like, I don't care, they're still my appointments, and then he would force their hand. Because he doesn't follow the traditions of this country, because he doesn't give a crap about the traditions of this country, because they are inconvenient to him.
Well, that's the thing now. I mean, where do we go from here now with him? Because the presidents don't have a clear directive or, a responsive, legal boundaries by which they're supposed to work within. And, and this ends up being a real problem because, unfortunately, he's got the Supreme Court that can basically say, yeah, we'll do whatever you think is right, and we'll say, oh, it falls within his, responsibility, and it's like, right. and it's a personal call, and it's like, no, it shouldn't be a personal call. It should be a legal. Or it has to fall within the responsibility of the Congress and the Senate, because the thing is that it shouldn't be one man's decision. It should be, the country's decision as to what's going on. And I mean, we really fucked up when we went and allowed Bush to push this horse shit, because this basically opened the door for Trump to do all the stuff that he's getting away with. We gave up our privacy. We gave up all the things there. And then we got mad at Snowden because he went out there and revealed all the methods by which we did intelligence gathering. And, we opened up the whole Pandora's box, and now we're like, oh, now what do we do? And there's no good answer of what to do, unless you start all over from the beginning again and rewrite the Constitution and figure out what everybody's role is supposed to be. And, I don't know. Am I losing my shit?
Here's the interesting thing, though, is that, like, I called into a different conservative show a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago, or whatever, on the same station, but a different show. And I started off my call to them in a way that I knew would actually get their support at the beginning. As I said, just because one doesn't support the Patriot Act, it doesn't mean that they're not a patriot. Because here's the thing that conservatives have done since the early 2000s, since after 9/11, is that previously they were like, oh, you have to support the Patriot Act or you're not a patriot. Nowadays, a lot of these type of folks don't like the Patriot Act. They disagree with it wholeheartedly, but my point that I made to them was that just like that, just as that's the case, it's also the case that just because somebody disagrees with policies that are labeled, quote, America first, it doesn't mean that those people don't want America to actually, succeed. It just means that we disagree with the idea that they are, that these ideas really put America first, or that these ideas are really beneficial to the American people. They didn't know what to say to that, I don't think, because they were shocked.
Yeah, but we're living in an era where might makes right. And unfortunately, Trump realized that and is now using that to basically, play within the world of his ego. And, he's stepping into a huge mess and is going to get the Middle East completely, on the path towards World War III, because what's going to happen? They'll go, oh, well, if we can't make an official strike at the U.S., then we'll send people to do Britain and all the other democratic nations and send a signal that you mess with us and stand back and watch what's going on, then you're going to pay the price too. And that's the thing. It'll be people who aren't involved that will end up paying the price, much the same way we are right now with all this tariff bullshit that's going on. We did nothing wrong. We were following the bloody agreement that he put into law. Mm-hmm. So what do we do with that? Oh, gee, I decided I don't like the deal that I wrote and signed my name to, and this is where the courts are supposed to step in and say, no, you cannot apply tariffs when you don't follow the rules that you agreed to.
Right.
That's where the limit of the presidential power is supposed to be. Is that if it's international law or it's an agreement that you stood on, you don't get to backtrack and play. Oh well, I've decided that now that I have all the power again, that I can change my mind. It's like, no, it doesn't work like that.
Now, bringing up tariffs for a second, I do need to point out that it's been like weeks, if not months, maybe at least weeks. Because even though this administration feels like it's been forever and a day, it's really still has only been less than 2 months.
2 months.
Yeah. That's absurd. That's crazy to think about, that it's been less than 2 months. And with all the issues I've been dealing with my wife, the GoFundMe's in the show link if anybody wants to contribute to that still. But anyway, for weeks, if not, at least a month or maybe 2 months, maybe, when he started talking about tariffs, I, on this show, was talking about the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act, because we all should have known from Ferris Bueller's Day Off that the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act raised tariffs. And did it work? No, it did not work. And it was disastrous. The United States sunk deeper into the Great Depression. Anybody who watched Ferris Bueller's Day Off should know that, especially if you watch it multiple times like I have. But here's the thing. Like MSNBC this afternoon just played that clip on Ari Melber. Now, I like Ari Melber. I don't have any criticisms about Ari Melber yet. So I like Ari Melber, but it's taken a while for him to do what I've been talking about already forever. So another reason why everybody should listen to Liberal Dan Radio, talking left is right. Anyway, go on, continue.
Well, the problem I have with Ari Melber is he tends to platform these people and lends legitimacy to them, like Peter Navarro. I mean, the guy is a bloody idiot. I mean, he decides, here's what I have figured out. And it's like none of his books have any statistics to support all the things that he thinks is going on with China. You know, everything is bullshit. Oh, it's supposition. It's a hypothesis that can't be tested, but I've decided is correct. And it's like, you sound like an idiot. You haven't given any proof. You haven't given any. You know, like if you were in a science class, you would fail because it would be like you didn't provide any evidence. You didn't provide the numbers. You didn't provide any statistics. You failed to prove your hypothesis, and yet you still keep saying, "Oh, well, this is how it is." And it's like, no, that's your opinion. That's not a fact. Your opinion can be wrong.
Right.
You know, and to not be able to acknowledge that.
Here's my point about so-called platforming people. Like, I think Ari Melber did do a good job with it, though. I mean, you might disagree with giving people a platform, but I mean he's done what I've done sometimes. I'll have a conservative caller call in, and then I give them just enough rope, and they hang themselves, and then I make the point that that's the so-called proverbial kill shot, not a literal kill shot, but I made the point that and you actually win the argument. So if you are adept at having that conversation and then turning it around on them and showing them why they're wrong and showing the other people why they're wrong, then I think it's reasonable to bring them up on camera, to smack them down on camera. That being said, if they're not capable of doing that, then they have no business doing that. But I think Ari Melber did do a decent job of showing.
He certainly did the reveal on Navarro, because Navarro walked right into it and said, "You realize that you just outlined a coup."
I think Kelly
Navarro
says,
was like,
Kelly in the chat goes, "Isn't that where he started talking about the Green Bay sweep?" I was like, "Yes, I believe that's 100% true." So I believe that is true.
I mean, I get that, and that's the thing. That's where it is effective. But the question is was it planned by Melber, or was it just Navarro being a complete idiot and taking advantage of his platform to go out there and spread a lie that the maggots won't know the difference? I
think it's a little of both. I think Ari Melber planned to do it. I think that's the reason he brought him on. But I also think Navarro probably thought, "Oh, I'm going to get to say my stuff on MSNBC, yay!" Not realizing that he was walking into a trap. So,
yeah. I don't know. I just every day I feel like I'm getting 10 years older with all the shenanigans that this Trump administration is pulling off. I mean, as Texas Paul was saying, better to have a gun than to need one. And at this point, I don't know where it's going to go. I mean, it sounds to me like he thinks he's possibly going to be one of the targets that they're going to go after. I mean, look at all the targets that. Do you think that guy, the Palestinian that he went and he took? I mean, you saw the video, right? His wife was standing there, and ICE went in and grabbed him, and she was like, "And who are you? And where are you taking him?" And they wouldn't answer her.
Right.
And it's like, hello, you cannot do that. That's against the law. You cannot go and kidnap somebody and just say ICE and show nothing, because that's the thing. I don't think they even flashed their badges. They just simply said, "We're ICE and we're here to collect him."
Right.
And it was like, for what? You have to, I mean, they should have at least given her a warrant or some proof of legitimacy that he had committed a crime, and they didn't do that. and it's obvious that he was just standing there, so they didn't witness him committing a crime. So
Right.
what justification did they have to do anything with him?
Well, it's because they believe that just by being there at the protest, that you somehow support Hamas or whatever. Now, I have my criticisms of the people who are on the of some people on the pro-Palestinian side simply because of the fact that they don't know how to. A lot of people are not adept enough at discussing their issues that they have with Israel without sounding like an anti-Semite. Criticism of Israel isn't in and of itself anti-Semitic, but there are many people, who don't know how to do it. So, I mean, yeah, there are people who are out there shouting like from the river to the sea, blah, blah, blah. And, that is a Hamas, slogan that Hamas has taken and used and abused or whatever. That being said, just guilt by association isn't reason enough to deport somebody, especially somebody who's here legally.
Yeah.
Because their initial issue...
but that's my point. But that's my point. The point is that you can have crazy ideas, and that's part of the freedom of speech doctrine. But when you start to enact on those crazy ideas and you deprive somebody else of their rights,
right,
that's when it becomes a crime. And the thing is that he did nothing of the sort. He did nothing to enact anything. You can disagree with what he said, but unless he acts on those said statements, he has the same right to say those things as I do to disagree with him.
Well,
the thing
conservatives
is that
will say that believe incorrectly that rights that are in the Constitution that are protected by the Constitution are only for citizens, when clearly the Constitution does not say that. Clearly the Constitution has rights that are for citizens, and then the rights for everybody else are for people, not citizens. The founders were smart enough to put citizens where they meant and people where they meant. But this is who we're dealing with. We're dealing with people who, right now, Donald Trump is more than willing to kiss the ass of those people or agree with them because it gives him what he wants. It allows him to, go back on his first. They were only going to go after the people who weren't documented. That's not true. They were only going to go after the people who were here in violation of our border policies. That's not true either. But we all knew that wasn't true. Unfortunately, the other people are not going to be able to be convinced that he is acting in a hypocritical, immoral, unethical, lawless way. So say one more thing. I think I want to say more. I think Head Jeremy wanted to call in, so let's go ahead and
I gotta go anyway. So
right, cool.
you can chat with someone else, and I'll be listening in. I have to do my work as well.
All right, well, have a good one. Thank you for calling, Head Jeremy. I mean, Big Hook. Yeah. I'm looking at Head Jeremy saying Big Hook. Thank you for calling in. Have a good one.
No
Call
worries.
back another time. Bye.
You too. Bye.
All right, and that was Big Hook. Head Jeremy or anybody else you want to call in, 562-542-3261, 562-LibDan1. Give Head Jeremy the opportunity first, since he was the one who was calling in before. Let him have his shot, and then we'll talk to other people if they want to talk. We'll probably be on, there we go. That should be that. Stop it. Let's see. All right. We got you this time?
Hey, Dan.
Hey, what's going on?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you well. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
I'm hanging in there. What you want to talk about?
I just wanted to talk to you about this whole concept regarding measure twice, cut once.
Right.
I was thinking about, today, I saw a thing about there was a court order not that long ago regarding firings of probationary employees, and today USDA hired back 6,000 employees that had gotten fired a couple weeks ago.
Right.
Years ago, really. And but I didn't hear anything about them hiring back people at other agencies, and I'm wondering if this hiring back is kind of like a regret, like that they, oh shit, we need these people to support our farmers who voted for us,
right,
type of thing. And it seems like there's a selective compliance with court orders so that they can go back while they're disobeying court orders. They can point to the ones that they did obey and say that, see, we're complying, right? And sorry, I'm going with my notes. I don't have.
No, it's fine. You know, I do the same thing when I call in sometimes in places, or I'll have notes or whatever. But I think it's six. I think it was six agencies that the probationary employees worked for that that the judge ordered them to come back. And I think another judge in Maryland also ordered the administration to temporarily halt its planned reductions in workforce at 18 agencies, including Department of Education, that had announced that it would fire half of its staff. So at the moment, that court order, I think, is also standing put or whatever. But again, that they're trying to... That's one of the things that they're trying to do, is that they're just trying to do so much to just swamp down the system so that it makes it impossible to be able to deal with everything terrible that they're doing, in the hopes that something are going to slip through the cracks. And that's one of their ultimate goals, is just to overpower the system with so much BS that it's difficult to fight every single one, which is why we need to redouble our efforts and make sure that we still do fight every single one. So...
Okay.
You know?
Well, that was just like an observation I had, like regarding what was going on, and I feel like some of the hiring back was because they're realizing like the damage that they're causing to the economy, especially because we need these people in the bureaucracy to help out, but it seems targeted towards like, oh, we're gonna restore the bureaucracy to the people we want to help. You know, the people who voted for us, which is kind of bullshit too.
Right. I mean, most of the layoffs, or a big chunk of those layoffs of the probationary employees, I think, were all in like swing states, all states that he won. You know, that I think Biden won last time. Like, I mean, you have the map showing that was just uncanny. Like the top states would have the most employees that were laid off, and of course he's laying off more veterans than, you know, disproportionately as compared to everyone else. And now these people, again, they're in the find out phase. They're finding out just how bad of a decision they made by supporting this guy, and like how many people are going to have to find out before action is taken, and or will anybody care? Like it will care. We care, obviously, but are they going to care enough? Are the people in government going to be like, you know what, this is too much. This is a line too far. We have to draw the line here, no further. And then make Trump pay for what he did. But I don't have any faith that the Republican Party has enough of a backbone to stand up to their own president, because they're afraid of their voters. They're afraid that if they take steps to stop Donald Trump and even if they think that his actions are lawless, even if they disagree with those actions, they're too afraid to speak out, because they're afraid that somebody else is going to come primary them, and then they'll lose their job. So,
well, I'm not that much of a big talker, so I just wanted to put that out there.
Look, I'm glad to have more people call in. Appreciate you, and you're more than welcome to call in and talk about anything else later in the future. And you have a great night. Thank you again.
All right, thanks, Dan.
You're welcome. Bye. Oh, I didn't hang up enough of a time for Hedge Enemy to not hear the hang up thing. So anyway, let's see it's called gender transition surgery. You guys for real? Wait, hold on. Are you saying people aren't getting their wieners or breast chopped off? There are people. I mean, look. I know somebody who had top surgery. I know several people that have had top surgery. Trans men who had top surgery. I know somebody, Evie Winters, who has been a guest on my show twice, and I'm talking with her to try and get her to come back on. She's very busy. She's come out. She put her surgery, her bottom surgery, on YouTube so that anybody could see it and see what people are going through, just to be like, this is not a trivial thing. This is not something that's just trivial that's going on. These individuals are absolutely going through major surgeries as adults to transition from the gender that they were labeled at birth to the gender that they are. And again, as somebody correctly said in the chat, why does it bother people? Why is that a big deal to you? I mean, if you're not, nobody's forcing you to get any gender reassignment surgery. Nobody is forcing you to have gender affirming care. Nobody is forcing you to do that. But if we want to do things like, for example, if you had a young child who is telling you that they are a trans man, and if they don't feel like their breasts are very affirming, or their chest, their tops are affirming to them, and they feel like it causes dysphoria, if you will, by having theirs, typically they're not going to reduce or eliminate that young person's top. They're not going to do the top surgery when they're under 18. I mean, I do know of young women who are cis women who have had breast reduction surgery as children, or as young teens, or even middle teens, or whatever, simply because their breasts were just way too big and were causing back problems. So that is, 100% okay and should be done when, if it's causing health problems. There are children who have injuries to their bottom areas, who also, need to have surgeries done to fix those surgeries. And that's also gender affirming care, to make sure that the person has working parts and that they're not somehow harmed by injury or whatever. So that is absolutely, those are things that can happen that have nothing to do with trans issues, but are still gender affirming care. But if nobody's forcing you to do it, then why should it bother you? And why should it bother you if somebody feels like their chest is somehow causing them harm or pain, and they can't get it removed yet, and they hope to one day get it removed when they're adults, to be able to make that decision for themselves. But if you want to get them, binders, to be able to enable them to, constrain their chest in a healthy way, you should absolutely be able to do so without fearing being at risk, because your government's going to come after you because of some woke DEI, whatever BS that they're trying to argue that you're doing to your kids. When in reality, there are young trans men who, if they can't get the binders, if they can't purchase a binder that's going to constrain them healthily and give them that gender affirming feeling, if they can't do that, then sometimes these people will do things like wrap themselves up in ace bandages, and that's absolutely not healthy for them to do. So by telling people that they can't get their children the affirming care that they need, that is not surgical but is still affirming to what their gender is, you're basically risking harm on their behalf, because they're going to potentially take actions that are going to be harmful because they can't do the other actions that would be okay and fine and not harmful to them. So, well, that's the thing. Like, you can accept whatever you want, but just don't force people to say or believe what you want them to say or believe. Problem with that is, Chad, is that you have the situation where we have people who change their names. Cis folks who change their name. My mom spells her name differently than was on her original birth certificate. She wanted a more artsy spelling of her name, and she legally changed her name to be that. Are you going to insist on spelling her name by what was on her original birth certificate? Or are you going to respect her wishes to spell the name that she wants in the way that it wants to be spelled? If somebody doesn't like to be called certain things, like, are you going to, like, if somebody's, let's say their first name is, like, my middle name is Jay. So what if I decided that I didn't like being called Daniel, that I didn't like being called Dan, and I wanted to be called Jay instead? You've known me as Daniel for all the time you've known me. People have known me as Daniel, Dan, whatever, over the course of my life. And if I decided that I wanted to go by Jay, and I insisted on going by Jay, and if you respected me as a human being, you would then respect my wishes and call me Jay. I would like to think so, at least, because that's what reasonable, kind people do. So why then can't you then call somebody who has a dead name by their preferred name? why is it that much of a difficult thing to use somebody's pronouns that they tell you are their pronouns? Right? I mean, it shouldn't be that difficult of a thing. It shouldn't be that much of an ask. Now, people will try and justify their behavior and justify their bad behavior towards trans folk by saying, you can't force me to confirm their mental illness. Which is why you had the situation where the congressperson from Delaware was being misgendered by the Republican from Texas because he was using the excuse of, well, I don't feel like I should have to, cater to somebody's mental issues or whatever. When in reality, all you're doing is being a kind and decent human being and treating a person as if, as they want to be treated, as you would want somebody to treat you as you've been treated. Because I guarantee you there's plenty of fragile conservative men out there where if you called them girl all the time when they're guys, they'd be pretty mad at you for just calling them a girl when they're not a girl. So why can't the same thing hold true? So, but see, here's the thing. Nobody is, who is trying to force you to do anything? Like if somebody asks you, if I asked you to call me Jay instead of Dan, I'm not going to because I like Dan. But if somebody asks you to call me Jay, you probably just call me Jay. If somebody who is a trans person wanted you to call them by their name that they choose and not the name that they were given, then why would you just not want to do that? Now, there are some places that absolutely would, try and make it to be like a hate crime or whatever to misgender somebody, because in reality, the thing that you have to consider is that I've said this on before, where misgendering somebody is violence, especially when it comes to young people, because for every single person who is a young trans person every single person when dealing with a young trans person, every single person that respects that person for who they are and doesn't misgender them, doesn't call them by their dead name, for every person that does that, that individual is 50% less likely to want to off themselves or to try and off themselves. And the rates of self-harm of folks who are trans is greater than the general rate of self-harm of the general population. So why should it have to take government forcing to do anything? It should never get to the point of force. It should always be the default of being kind, being nice, respecting an individual for what their wishes are. And what does it say about the individual who won't do that for whatever reason? So, yeah, it's called Matters. Absolutely. Hey, Impeccable Living is back. How was your, was it half an hour, 45 minutes? See, Floyd, was this election fueled by hate or by information? I think it was fueled by hate and misinformation, and sexism and bigotry, and racism. So, Chad Bosick, then we should outlaw the word fat. It's a slippery slope. No, I don't think it's a slippery slope. I think fat has its purposes. I mean, Liberal Dan Radio presents Fat Man Rants. Although the reason that I have Fat Man Rants is because of people who would come on my videos, or who come across my videos, watch my videos. I don't know if they're coming on my videos. I mean, that's a whole different channel. But, I actually hate the term personally morbidly obese more than I hate the word fat. I mean, I understand I'm a fat guy. It's fine. But it's how you refer to the person, which is usually the problem. The whole thing, it's not what you said, it's how you said it. Like, let's take, for example, a lot of conservatives are confused about the use by folks who are LGBTQA plus or whatever, by using the word queer. Because they're like, well, I heard this guy from Boston talking about somebody and called them a bunch of queers, and that was taken as a negative. Well, yeah, because if you're using the term in a hateful way, then it's going to be taken in a hateful way. So if you use the word queer as a slur, then yes, it's going to be taken that you're a bigot, whatever. But if somebody is referring to themselves as a queer individual or referring to the group that they're in as queer folk, you have queer eye for the straight guy, for example. Those are people who are using the term and reclaiming the term and taking the power out of the term by using it in a way that's affirming to them and who they are. So I hope that makes sense. Fat, I would say, somebody says who says fat's not an opinion? Bicycle Mike. Mike says fat's not an opinion. Well, here's the thing, though. I'll bring that picture up again if I have to. Hold on. Let me load up Facebook and bring that up. Search it up, and for those of you, all I have to do is search "thought I was fat," and I get the first post that comes up is me. And actually, no, it actually wasn't the first post. Holy crap! Usually, it's the first post that comes up. Maybe I have to put "I thought I was fat." No. Why is it not doing it? For some reason, let's see, posts. There we go, posts. That's what I had to do. I had to look at posts. Open image in new tab so weird things don't pop up. But again, go to the alternate screen. This is me as a high schooler. This is me as an 18-year-old. Now I have to specifically say that this is me as an 18-year-old. A, because it's true, and B, I don't want YouTube claiming I have chilled pictures of children in my videos. So this is clearly me as an 18-year-old, as a senior. I would love to be as fat as I thought I was. People called me fat there. That was considered fat. I would love to be that fat. So no, many times fat is definitely an opinion. It's a subjective term. By calling somebody fat is comparatively. Like, then of course there's PHAT, pretty hot and tempting, but I'm not going to say that I think that I'm that. But I think it's reasonable to say, for example, that if you're in school, that you shouldn't be able to use terms in a derogatory way to bully your fellow classmates. Unfortunately, there are many people who, a lot of them happen to be conservatives, who believe that bullying is a rite of passage. But, again, well, thank you, Roxanne. Yes, nice rented tux. I don't think this is from a different pair. There was one prom that I went to where, I looked just like translucently white because of the population of my school and the flash settings that they had to put on their cameras. It made us look like translucent or whatever. Yeah. Do the Humpty Hump. All right, stop what you're doing, because I'm about to ruin the image and the style that you're used to. I look funny, but y'all making money, see, so y'all want to hope you ready for me to gather round. I'm the new fool in town, and the sound's laid down by the underground. I'll drink up all the Hennessy you got on your shelf, so just let me introduce myself. My name is Humpty, pronounced with an umpty. Y'all ladies, oh, how I'd like to funk thee. And all the rappers in the top 10, please allow me to bump thee. I'm stepping tall, y'all, and just like Humpty Dumpty, you're gonna fall when the stereos pump me. I like to rhyme, I like my beats funky, I'm spunky, I like my oatmeal lumpy, I'm sick with this. Straight gangsta Mac, but sometimes it get ridiculous. I lead up all your crackers into licorice. Yo, fat girl, come here, I ain't ticklish. Yeah, look, called you fat. Look at me, I ain't skinny. Never stop me from getting busy, I'm a freak. I like the girls with the boom. I once got busy in a Burger King bathroom, I'm crazy. Allow me to amaze thee. They say I'm ugly, but they just don't faze me. I'm still getting in the girls' pants, and I even got my own dance. Sorry. So you did it. I had to do it. I had to show that I had some flow, right? Impeccable living. Oh, Dan. What? What? Oh my, you back. So did y'all not expect that? Did I surprise you? I get stupid. I use an arrow like Cupid. I use the word to dummy nothing. Like looped it. I sang on Do What You Like, and if you missed it, I'm the one who said just grab him in the biscuits. Anyway, I have done that in karaoke before, but I don't need the words in front of me in order to do it because I know the song by heart. It's looped id, not just loop id, looped id. That was hot, Liberal Dan. Thank you. I actually have, I think I have a video of me up on my nerdydan.com, not just doing my the karaoke where I won with What a Wonderful World is doing my imitation of Louis Armstrong. I also think I have my version of doing White and Nerdy as well. So, anyway. Thank you, Hedge Enemy. I wonder if I got a copyright violation by that. I wonder if my imitation was good enough. So, it's the Quad City DJs, and yo, we call it the train. Come on, ride that train, and ride it. Sorry. Come on, it's a choo-choo. Anyway, how did that come up? How did the Humpty Dance come up? I think I need to scroll back a little bit. I'm saying that fat kids kill themselves for being called fat. Well, here's the thing, Chad. It's not that. It's that, kids will off themselves or self-harm, not simply because of being called fat, but because they're bullied. And because we don't do a good enough job at fighting bullying when it comes to, kids. So we should absolutely step in and stop kids from being bullied. How that bullying takes place could be done with, calling somebody obese or fat or whatever, or some other word that they used. Because if fat was illegal, they'd come up with some of it. They'd say they're rotund, they're whatever. They'd come up with portly, stout, and you find some other word to use to insult them and their size. I mean, there was one time when I remember I was at college. I think it was my year off of college, and I just missed the streetcar and actually ran to go catch up with the streetcar, and I did catch it at the next stop. And some sorority a-hole, I know they happened to be in sorority. I actually know I think they were Pi Phis or whatever, just, because I remembered who they were. And she was like, "Run, fat boy, run!" And I'm like, man, if I would have been somebody with a much thinner skin, literally and figuratively, then I might have been very upset about that. I was more pissed off at the fact that if she would have done it to somebody else, that they might have, been upset. Like, they would have cried. They might have been upset about the whole thing. I mean, I knew, at that time I was doing much better dating because I had much more confidence. I didn't give a crap about what that one person says. She's missing out. She's not attracted to me. Fine, good, whatever. But, yeah, Rubenesque, yes, voluptuous or what have you. Let's see, bullying is a problem for sure, but if you got kids, they all do it. But when I see it happening in front of my face, I speak up and I tell my kids it's not okay. It's not okay to bully. It's not okay to fight. It's not okay to treat people meanly. And I try and set the example for everybody else. Now, it's not okay to pick on people or whatever for things that they don't have a choice to do. If you're choosing to do something terrible, then by all means, be critical of that. But if it's not a choice, and I would argue that obesity is typically not a choice simply because of the fact there are so many issues that go into somebody being obese that, you don't know. Could be a thyroid issue, could be another health issue, could be an abuse issue, as we've just discussed on the very special episode of Liberal Dan Radio, Talk from the Left, That's Right. For those of people who did not hear that show, I discussed in that show that there is a strong correlation between people who are morbidly obese and people who've been abused as children, be it physically, emotionally, or sexually. And I didn't, during the very special episode, I didn't bring this part up because I wasn't ready to bring it up yet to everybody. Wasn't ready to be out about that point. But then later on in a later show, I was basically, yeah, that's probably one of the reasons why I'm fat, because I was abused as a kid. And it's not okay. And it's not okay to mock people for being fat because of the fact that you don't know if that person is just making a poor life decisions and, eating too much junk food, or if the reason that they're eating junk food is because they're using it to self-medicate and deal with the pain that they're dealing with because of the fact that they were abused. So, anyway, Impeccable School, Impeccable Living, I went to a weird hippie private school. I was never bullied. It was completely foreign concept to me. I was very thankful my parents put me in that school. Thank goodness. I mean, that's always a good thing. I mean, there wasn't a lot of bullying that took place in my middle school, and I was always pretty much in high school. Elementary and middle school wasn't that much bullying. There was one bully that I think was there for a few years, but he left. But everyone else, it was a small school, but it was a private school or whatever, and people, I guess, didn't want to risk their good education, so they made sure that the kids acted right. But that's the thing. We don't, and advice like, or I mean, Chad Bosnick, yeah, obesity for some is not a choice, especially children if they are only fed sugars and processed food. Yeah. But even then, it's, you don't know what somebody's going through in their life. So therefore it's, telling, bullying somebody is just not a good thing. It's not something that's, it's not something that should be accepted or tolerated. But too many people, and I think, I don't think I'm wrong for saying this, is that a lot of these people tend to be conservative-minded folks who will say things like, oh, bullying is a rite of passage. The fuck it is. Shouldn't be a rite of passage. It should be a rite of passage to be able to go through life and not be bullied. But what do we expect? We have President Donald Trump at this point, the bullier in chief. His image that he shared on Twitter or whatever, on whatever, from the White House official site, the official account of the White House, saying bye and having Donald Trump waving from the McDonald's after he made his French fries, that is bullying. That just sets a bad example to people. So, let's see, my parents knew I was gay by the time I was 4. My mom knew I'd be eaten alive in public school. She took the job as a French teacher to pay for my tuition. Well, good on your mom. But there's another interesting thing to bring up. Let's see, one man's fat is another man thick or fat. There's a huge gray area between model thin and morbidly obese. Any portion could be fat. Well, again, that's how I said it's subjective. I probably still am technically morbidly obese, even though I am now down, if not 75 pounds, but 85 pounds, depending on how much I trust my scale currently, as compared to the scale at the doctor's office. Because I weighed myself after I came back from the doctor's office the other day and only saw a pound difference, and then I weighed myself again and saw 20 pounds difference after that. I was like, what the hell? How is that at all possible? But, it's falling on my ear. So, but yeah, I think I'm about 85 pounds down from my absolute heaviest that I've ever been. That being said, I still have a long way to go. But yeah, one of the things that I realized when I started getting more confidence in college and started dating better was that I realized that there are people who are going to like me and be attracted to me because, regardless of my size, or even because I'm a nice fluffy guy and they like nice fluffy huggable guys. And there are other people who are not going to like me because that's not what they're attracted to. And that's every right for them to be not attracted to me. And I have no right to demand people be attracted to me. They should be attracted to whoever they're attracted to. Now, I could be critical of them for how they voice their lack of attraction to me. They could just be like, I'm sorry, you're just not my type. Fine. Hey, I don't date fatties. No, that's not okay. But yeah, there is, if some people just like, the fact that, I'm a nice big cuddly guy who keeps them warm on the cold winter nights. So why do you think I'm married up? Anyway, hey, Jeremy. Oh, damn, I completely forgot about fat. Yeah, let's see. What else? I already read that part already. I can't get around a problem with sending a super chat, something to do. I don't know. I had problems for a while sending super chats in HALs. Like, I couldn't do my anniversary chat, and I could only do it from my phone. But I think they fixed it somewhat, but I don't know. See, Trump is definitely a big old bully. I have to be honest, though. I laughed at the McDonald's pick, even though I agree it's childish. I guess I'm just a dick. I mean, look. It could have been funny if used for other things, but using it for that, yeah, not great. And I would be just as critical of Democrats, leftists, liberals, whatever, for being mean as well. Bicycle Mike, I prefer bigger Viking women. As long as you're not Dutch, they might like you back. If you don't watch Ghosts, if you watch Ghosts, you'll understand what that means. See, there you go, Liberal Dan. I'm obese but sexy AF. Well, I mean, I have yet to see a picture of you, Kimchi, but I absolutely 100% believe that you are sexy AF because of who you are. So, and the fact that everyone calls you goddess, including me. So, let's see, hedge enemy. I'll admit I like squishy girls. I mean, look, I've dated toothpick women, whatever. One of my closest, relationships leaving high school, I think, somebody who I really, I was back, I think, my first year, and she was senior, so we just were a year apart or whatever, and she was, super, 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 she still is super, super skinny, but she liked me, I liked her, whatever, so there you go. I've also dated people that are probably more heavy than me. Again, because to me, size and attractiveness have nothing to do with each other. To other people, maybe they do, but to me, they don't. I've seen, people who are considered obese, and I'd be like, damn. I've seen people who are, skinny, I'd be like, damn, or somewhere in between as well. So again, that's just my taste, my preferences, or whatever. A lot of the things with attraction have to do with more of a sort of a mental connection. I'm not saying it's demisexual because that's a completely other thing, and I don't believe that I'm demisexual. But that's probably a topic to be had if we ever do launch Liberal Dan After Dark. Maybe if there's enough of a request to do it, maybe I'll do it on my Patreon, just to start off that way. We'll see. But see, energy is attractive. Yeah, I see that too. But it's something different. I don't even have a word to describe what I am, what makes me attracted to somebody in some cases. There's obviously, I could look at somebody and be like, damn, that person's pretty or hot or beautiful or cute or whatever. Clearly, there are people who are just, typically attractive and everyone would be like, okay, that person's attractive, fine. Even if I'm not attracted to them, I could look at somebody and be like, okay, fine, that person is an attractive person. I'm just not attracted to them. Then of course a lot of times with attitudes, it's potentially that, somebody could be seen as attractive, but because of certain views that they might hold, they're not. Somebody might look at Bobo the Clown and be like, maybe that's somebody who they might find attractive, but then as soon as they find out that they're actually Bobo the Clown and a terrible, horrible person, then we'd be like, ew, no, never mind. So, see, my ex can fit into my jeans. I guess I have a type. I guess which way? I guess that's not really my business, but whatever. So, Chad, I'm a straight up sucker for eyes and sassiness. When you rap, I find you very attractive. Does it depend on the rap? Like, what if it was Vanilla Ice? Would that still be attractive? Or is it just any rap in general? See, I had a chance to see the show in the mid-90s, turn it down due to some things I should not say, so here I'm 25 and going. It's all right, stop. Not yo, stop. It's all right, stop. But yeah, I actually had a chance. I won tickets in like 96, 97 maybe, to go see Metallica in concert for their Reload tour. I got like 10th row seats from calling into the radio and actually won the damn tickets. But because it was in Lafayette, Louisiana, which is a 2-hour drive away, and I had no vehicle, I couldn't go, and I couldn't find anybody to bring me. I was like, you have a free Metallica ticket if you just drive me. Nope, we have exams. Screw you. Lisa, I'm naturally thin, size 2. Did we talk about the whole blood type thing? Are you type B, or do you know? Because a lot of times, a lot of the people who are very thin tend to be type B blood type. It's not a hard and fast rule, but a lot of times people with higher natural metabolisms tend to be B blood types or whatever. And it's always interesting because I usually find it more likely to be true than not, but it might not be the case in your case. My cat jumped into my keyboard and typed whatever that is. Well, I saw there was a funny cat video that my wife shared with me that the cat fell asleep on the Z button. So the cat's sitting there sleeping, and it just keeps going Z, 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 Z. Yep, see, there you go, type B. Boom, perfect. See, I didn't know you could do it. The more I learn about you, the more I watch you. Is it Scottish, or wait, if Scottish or it's crap? There you go, Bicycle Mike. So, redhead with freckles all over, that's my kind of girl. Actually, that's a good Irish lass, to have a red head and some freckles. That's good. Actually, one of the main characters of my novel that I'm writing is a redhead with a lot of freckles. So, I actually impressed one of my friends at karaoke when I did Ice Ice Baby. All right, stop, collaborate, and listen. Ice is back with a brand new invention. Something grabs a hold of me tightly. Flow like a heartbeat, daily and nightly. Will it ever stop? Yo, I don't know. Turn off the lights and I'll blow to the glow. To the extreme, I rock a mic like a vandal. Light up a stage and watch it jump like a candle. Dance. Anyway, so that's that. And I impressed him with that. There was one time, it was the Beastie Boys. the Beastie Boys, when they were inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and whenever that typically happens, you'll have a large group of musicians coming together and performing the music of the band that was admitted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And it had been forever since I've heard this particular Beastie Boys song. And I'm just sitting there, and they started doing like one of the parts or whatever, and then it was like cooling on a corner on a hot summer's day, just me and my posse and MCA, a lot of beer, a lot of girls, and a lot of cursing. 22 automatic on my person, got my hand in my pocket and my fingers on the trigger. Posse's getting big and my posse's getting bigger. So I just couldn't believe that after not having heard that song for like maybe 20 years that I was able to do it completely from memory. So, see, had a little horsey named Paul Revere, just me and my horsey and a quart of beer, riding across the land, picking up sand. Sheriff Posse's on my tail 'cause I'm in demand. One lonely beastie I be, all by myself without nobody. Anyway, so yes, I love that. I love that Beastie Boys cassette that I owned way back in the day. So. So many guys are looking to do fun gay stuff. Always do fun gay stuff. If you have the opportunity to do gay stuff, right? So, anyway. Liberal Dan raps. Next time it should be, instead of Liberal Dan sings the news, Liberal Dan raps the news. I just need to find a rap song to do that would be appropriate for whatever it is. Anyway. Good night, Josh. Thank you for joining us. See, that was my first CD purchase. Yeah, my first CD purchase was Abacab from Genesis. I think technically my mom got it, but at the time that was our first CD player, and I think it was Abacab by Genesis is what we got. Can I be Big Ed Lover? Sure, go right ahead. I ain't gonna stop you. So, anyway, let's go ahead and shut down the calls because we haven't had any calls recently. We can turn off this thing as well. So now that you know Liberal Dan got some flow, and so my first cassette was Twisted Sister. Funny thing about if you've never heard Twisted Sister singing "O Come All Ye Faithful," look it up on YouTube, and then you'll realize that "O Come All Ye Faithful" is pretty much exactly "We're Not Gonna Take It." And it will blow your ever frickin' loving mind. It's crazy how just alike they are. And if you've heard it, you know. If you haven't heard it, and if you can't hear it in your head, go watch it. And it's hilarious. But, what was the other thing that someone was going to say? Yeah, my sister wasn't fat. She's so fluffy. I'm not fat. I'm festively plump. Anyway. I collect vintage vinyl. I have a few friends who collect vintage vinyl. I have a crap ton of records. If you want to come to New Orleans and get a whole bunch of records for me, probably for super cheap, come right ahead. Because it's in my mother-in-law's house and it needs to be sold. There's a whole bunch that needs to be sold, including a whole bunch of records. She also has a whole bunch of automatic piano rolls or piano player rolls or whatever, and a player piano that needs to be fixed or whatever. But I'm a huge Johnny Cash and Merle Haggard fan. Some of them might be pristine, some of them might be not. Love is a burning flame, and it leaves a fiery ring. I fell in great desire, I fell into a ring of fire. Sorry, I don't think I got the lyrics completely right. I fell into a burning ring of fire. I went down, 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 and the flames get higher. And it burns, 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 that ring of fire, that ring of fire. Anyway, yes, hemorrhoids, exactly. So, anyway, so I think it's about that time where I probably need to go help my wife with her medicine. So These automatic pianos are so cool. Protect them, preserve them. I mean, I'd like to sell to somebody who would. I just don't know where we would put one in my house. So, but there's a whole crap ton of rolls that can go right along with it. It just needs to be a little repaired. So, so I never saw Dollhouse, but I still have all my Firefly and Serenity CDs. I think my Firefly CD is right over there somewhere. I don't see it off the top of my head when I look directly at it, but I just happen to, I do have Firefly, the whole show on DVD, which, you know, is only one season, unfortunately. Let's see. Good night, everybody. Well, it's home. Got to pay attention. Good night, Dan. Thank you so much for joining. Appreciate you. And we're ending the show soon anyway, so we'll go ahead and probably play again for the Twitch folks. We'll play the Hypocrite of the Week again, and then we'll turn off Twitch and go directly into the regular outro. But thank you very much, everybody, for joining. Appreciate you. I have my Rapid Rodney record still in plastic. No respect. I tell you, no respect at all. Anyway, so appreciate y'all. Thank you so much. Thank you again, Arizona, and for Chad for these super chats. Appreciate you. And for everybody else, if you haven't shared my GoFundMe yet, donated to them, whatever, share the link, whatever. We're still dealing with all the crap from after, you know, there's still, while my wife is home and doing much better, there's still a long road to go. But if you can't, just, you know, do the other things, share videos, comment on videos, interact with other people in videos, get the algorithms up, because as we all say, Al Gore needs more rhythm. Thank you so much. Have a good one. This week's Hypocrite of the Week is Donald Trump, and anyone being an apologist for his using a kid as a prop during his Pettysburg address. Conservatives cried that Democrats didn't applaud the child, but that's because we knew that Trump didn't care about cancer survivors at all. Proof? The 10-year-old girl whose family was deported for seeking medical care for her. To see who next week's Hypocrite of the Week will be, tune in live Mondays and Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Central on liberaldanradio.com or twitch.tv/liberaldanradio for more talk from the left. That's right.